A little bit of fun with the show today. Andy Ludwig, Utah offensive coordinator, joins us. The first edition of our Coordinator's Corner happens today here momentarily. Looking forward to that conversation. We can end, hopefully, if I conduct this interview right, which is probably unlikely, we can end some of the speculation about what's going on with this Utah offense and the preferences on how you balance it out. Brett McMurphy, America's college football insider at Action Network, is going to join us in our noon hour. And I told you we were going to start hot. We are starting with the offensive coordinator, Andy Ludwig, up there at your University of Utah Utes. Coach Lud, how are you, sir?
Good morning. I am doing great. Thank you. How about yourself? Doing
great. Very glad that you're willing to give us a little bit of time today. Look, the SUU game, a lot of fun. It was a great opener, 49-0, something you don't sneeze at ever, even if it is against an FCS opponent. You only had your starters in effectively for a half. Did they get the work done in that half that you wanted them to get done?
I feel good about the production of the first unit in the first half. You know, the first O-line started out the second half. We wanted to give Isaac Wilson a chance to play behind the one O-line, and but I feel good with the production of the first half. Obviously, a lot of things to clean up with the entire group, but it was an invaluable experience for that second group in the second half. As they did a lot of good things.
We've talked to Cam a lot here on the show about his expectations, the feeling of, being out there and doing it. And there's a certain amount of relief in addition to the excitement. From your perspective, what's it been like now that you have that guy so experienced? You two seem to be on the same page in a lot of ways. How different is it for you to call this offense when it's in Cam Rising's hands versus the other options?
Well, you've got every tool in the box available to you with Cam Rising at quarterback. Last year that may not have been exactly the case where you're trying to dial it back a little bit and not ask the quarterback to do too much. Now it's a matter of just trying to say, not asking Cam to do everything, but he wants to do everything. The guy's totally into it, total mastery of the offensive system, knows it inside and out, does a great job of preparation, and he's a lot of fun to coach right now.
When you guys are scripting out, I don't know, the first, opening sequence, your first 10, however you do it, and it's a collaborative effort, it's you and Cam, how collaborative is it? I've asked him this question. I wanted to get your perspective on it as well.
Yeah, we meet on Thursday nights after practice, and the first thing we go through is, we have our list of third down calls broken up by distances, and I just ask him to rank them, which third and 5 he likes the best, 1, 2, 3, 4. We usually have 4 in each different category, and he ranks them. And for the most part, I just roll right with that ranking because he's got to execute. I like them all. Shoot, that's why they're on the call sheet, but he's got to execute them. So he gets a chance to say, this is going to be my first third and long call. This would be the second. And then we just go through his favorite pass plays and things that would fit in the first quarter, how he wants to take shots or, get settled in a rhythm with some quicker throws, what have you. So his fingerprints are all over those situation scripting.
It was great to see Brant Keithy be so productive in the opening game, 700-plus days away from the last time we saw him, and he didn't appear to lose much of a step, especially that third touchdown where he fought through the contact. Just great thing to see. I hearken back to when we saw him, running fly sweeps and taking snaps in a Wildcat situation and all the different ways that you utilized him previously. Are all those things available to you again, or do you have to manage it differently because of the injury history and because of where he's at in his career?
Right now, we're throwing everything. You talk about Cam and Brant. They've been in the system for 6 years. It's unheard of. Same system, same coordinator. So he's had exposure to everything that we're doing, whether we did it in 2019, my first year here, or, before his injury in 22, early in the 22 season. Again, that guy has great football intellect, great mastery of the system, and you just try and find creative ways to get him touches.
Utah football offensive coordinator Andy Ludwig is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, part of our Coordinator's Corner. It'll rotate offense and defense, so we'll have Morgan Scalley next week. Coach, how often are you turning on the film and watching practice and putting on your mad scientist hat and saying, all right, I got these guys at wide receiver. These are weapons we haven't had every single year. I've got 6 tight ends. Let's get creative. Are you still drawing up new stuff?
Yes. There is a wealth of talented players. Unfortunately, there's only one ball, and you try to spread it out. But we're going to try to feature the playmakers, the best guys, and it's a very competitive group on the perimeter between the wideouts and tight end group. But really, it gives you a chance to be creative, but not get crazy with it. But you're just trying to highlight the players' skill sets and abilities, and we got a lot of tools to work with.
So we're never going to see all 6 tight ends on the field at the same time with Brant playing quarterback?
Well, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Little. I don't even know what do you even call that. It's not 05. It's just, I don't know. It's six tight end personnel, a little wildcat. I guess if you've only got 6, if you had more than that, you could pull a tackle and throw one of your tight ends out there. The group is so deep. Can we talk about the job Freddie has done with them? I mean, I go back to when your first stint at the University of Utah, and replacing an offense that didn't really even use much of a tight end, and now you've got 6 deep just on the depth chart.
Yeah, Freddie's done a great job, not only in recruiting very good players, but developing those players. And it's a super competitive room. And, it's hard because we love to feature the multiple tight end sets, but the skill set in the receiver room also warrants putting multiple receivers on the field. So, again, it's a balancing act, and you're just trying to play to the player's strengths and abilities.
Coach, how often when you're scripting plays or you're calling plays, is it about getting the ball into a certain player's hand because that person's the number 1 option or the number 2 option in the route tree? And how often is it just beating the defense's look? Is there a balance there? There is, and Coach Whittingham and I talk a lot about, how many touches is Dorian Singer going to get, how we're getting the ball to Caleb Lohner, and there's certain plays that are designed like the ball should go to this individual if the defensive structure shapes up the way we think it does. But then there's other drop back passes where Cam's got 5 viable options, so there's a little bit of a balancing act there. But we try to game plan to get the ball to certain players at different times, and we'll just keep that rolling here through the season. Because you have so many options with wideouts and with tight ends, will the running back room be less involved in the passing game?
No, I think you saw that the other night with Dejon Stanley, has a real skill set. He's not an every down player for us, but his role will increase because he's so dynamic with the ball in his hand. And another 6th-year player in this system, Mekhi Bernard, I have so much trust and confidence in his ability and his football intellect that he's a hard guy to ignore when you're diagramming routes or putting in plays, because he's so versatile and functional as a pass catcher.
When someone puts the ball on the carpet, Coach, and you recover it, it bounces right back into the breadbasket, whatever. How is that handled? How do you assess that? Because it's not a turnover, but obviously it's less than ideal. Is it like a half-point docked? How do you handle it?
Well, usually if the ball comes out, so do you, okay? And whether we get the ball back or not. And, in the first game with that, I'm thinking of Mike Mitchell, that one that bounced right back to him. There's some learning curve with those younger players. We had a ball on the ground, again, with another freshman running back. There's some learning opportunities there for those guys, but there's nothing more important in this offensive structure than ball security. It's our number 1 objective every week, and we take a lot of pride in it. Obviously, have room for improvement in that area.
Just another minute or two with the offensive coordinator at the University of Utah, Andy Ludwig, here on the Sean O'Connell Show. I want to focus in on this Baylor contest. They had their struggles defensively last year. Dave Aranda, head coach, we're all very familiar with him. Dave Aranda calling his own defense. Does that change anything when the head man is, he's down on the sideline and he's also calling the defense?
I don't think it changes anything. It makes it a little bit hard to prepare for because we have statistics and analytics from last year's coordinator, but that data, I don't want to say it's useless because it follows the philosophy of the head coach, but it was a different guy calling it. So I got great respect for Dave. I worked with Dave at Wisconsin for a couple of years. He's a great person and a very good head coach and defensive coordinator. And you're going into, I wouldn't say an unknown, but again, all the data that we have other than last week's game, which wasn't much of a game, is pretty much useless for us in terms of trying to dissect tendencies.
To what degree has the transfer portal exacerbated that to where you might be playing the same team, the same scheme, same coaches, but now they have 6 new starters?
Yeah, that will be a case through the season. I'm certain of that. But at Baylor, they're returning 9 or 10 starters on the defensive unit. So we're looking at a lot of the same guys on film that we're facing this week. So that's not as big a factor this week. And again, as the season continues, it'll be a little bit less of a factor as you get a beat on who's playing what as the portal players shape out.
All right, I got to ask you this, Coach, before I let you go. When we're leading up to the season and it's all about speculation and prediction, I put out some polls. I asked the question many different people, many different times, never to the man who's actually calling the plays and crafting this offense. When it comes to balance of calling plays, is this a year where the pass plays outweigh the run plays in your offense? Is this a year where it's a 51-49%, or is this still going to be predominantly a run offense with, of course, the passing game as a heavy component?
Well, every game is going to be different, and we are going to call the plays that we feel like put us in the best position to win the football game. And, again, with the experience at quarterback, with the strength of the perimeter players, obviously I think we are built to throw the ball with extreme efficiency, but the offensive line and the running back room adds so much value to the program. We want to be a play-action pass team, so running the football has always got to be part of our MO. And I think balanced or better is always the philosophy, balanced 50-50 run-pass. But if you're up in the fourth quarter, that's going to shift to more run as you try to work the clock and win the game that way. So, but it's a game. I'm not worried about run-pass ratio. I'm worried about W's. So whatever it takes to win the game, that's what we're going to do.
And the very last thing before I let you go, I've said it many different ways on my show over the years. You are the thing that has seemingly worked best alongside Kyle Whittingham. Your offense, maybe your attitude, is what balances out his approach on the defensive side and the culture building and all that. Why do you two work so well together?
I think we share a very similar philosophy in football, where it's a very physical and tough-minded sport. And my job as the offensive coordinator is to keep the head coach out of the offensive staff room, and you do that by just keeping him happy, scoring a lot of points, and protecting the football.
Well, Coach, we all hope that you continue to do that throughout the year. Good luck against Baylor, and thanks for joining me. We'll talk again soon.
Appreciate it. Go Utes.
That's Andy Ludwig, offensive coordinator at the University of Utah. Coordinator's Corners will be right here every week moving forward throughout the season. This week, offense with Andy Ludwig. Next week, it'll be Morgan Scalley and the defense. And we keep it tight because these guys are generous enough to give us their time, but they are busy in game week. So that last question, I could talk with Andy Ludwig if we had a whole hour. I could talk with him for an hour about that. There's really something magical, to get cheesy with it, about the way that the old school mentality, the dyed in the wool, I don't watch TV, I work out hard every day, I want everyone to be tough, the throwback of Kyle Whittingham has been brought into the 21st century of football most successfully alongside that man we just talked to. Kyle Whittingham is a phenomenal coach. phenomenal head coach, great leader. Everything I know about Coach Witt, and, it's not like we're best friends, but I've known him in some capacity now for 20-plus years, and I've never had reason, realistically, to look at him side-eye and just be like, I don't like the way that guy does things, Now, that's not to say that he's perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Even as a coach, there was a blind spot, there was a weakness, there was a whatever term you want to use, there was something missing from the grand recipe. Like, he was making cookies that you still wanted to eat, but they weren't that perfect chocolate chip that you dunk in the milk and it makes you happy and you go to sleep and have sweet dreams. There was just like something odd and missing. And it was the offensive play calling. It was the offensive culture. It was the inconsistency on the offense. It was 8 coordinators in 8 years. And the man who fixed it, we just got a chance to talk to him for 15 minutes. So I could go an hour with Andy Ludwig and Kyle Whittingham, and I don't even know if I'd want to talk X's and O's, even we could all learn a lot. But I'd rather talk about why that dynamic so successfully works. Jerry Sloan, Phil Johnson. Like, there's just something when you have a sidekick, and I don't want to diminish Andy Ludwig to the sidekick role, but when you have a right-hand man, when you have a consigliere, when you've got someone that you trust implicitly, and you heard what he said, offensive coordinator's job is to keep the head coach out of the offensive staff room. Nobody else does that. Nobody else had been able to do that. And it wasn't like a small sample size. It was a decade plus of too much control or too much meddling or too much whatever that, again, was still good, was still an awesome product, but it wasn't Power 5 championship caliber. That guy is the one. That guy is the mastermind. That guy is Robin to Batman. That guy might be more like, Wolverine gets all the credit. That's Professor X.
It's a solid analogy, actually.
And what Andy Ludwig has done culturally for Utah and what he has done reputationally for Kyle Whittingham can absolutely not be overstated. You talk to any college football insider in the country, and you bring up Kyle Whittingham, and it is universal respect. That would be the case, but it is now universal respect with championship pedigree, largely because of Andy Ludwig. And largely because of Andy Ludwig's ability to maximize the talent of somebody like Cam Rising. And again, this is all relationship-building stuff. Alonzo, you've been on the other side of the glass when I'm talking to Cam Rising about his relationship with Andy Ludwig and about how they collaborate. I asked Andy the same question. How they collaborate, how they call plays together, how they decide, how they script it out. This is a guy who's in his 6th year in the system, 7th year in college football, and he gets to rank his own favorite third down plays, and his coach, his offensive coordinator, says, yep, he got it right most of the time.
Well, and I mean, not only is it a respect thing, but the big thing with Andy as a whole, with Coach Led, is it's a collaboration. Like, you're maximizing, obviously, the ability of the guys, right? Like he referred to it, Mekhi Bernard. He knows what he can get out of him, right? He knows how he can stretch that ability and maximize the ability. But with Cam, with your star quarterback, with your QB1, in order for it to work, you have to be on the same page and collaborate. It can't be a matter of like, hey, like how you do with me, hey, this is what we're doing. But it has to be a collaboration, right? And in order for it to be successful in any way, you have to collaborate.
Yeah.
You have to.
So what you're saying is I don't do things that way, so I'm setting us up for failure?
I mean, listen, we're going to save the gaslighting for another time.
That's okay, it's fine.
But if it's not a collaboration, you ain't winning.
Speaking of my terrible tendencies, so I somewhat facetiously threw out, hey, 6 tight ends, Brant playing Wildcat quarterback, and Coach Ludwig's response to that was, that's a good idea. when we see it, I am 100% going to claim credit.
If they don't call that the flying OC, then I don't know what we did, where we went wrong.
I'm reading way too much into his response when he said that's a good idea in that tone. That told me, that confirmed in my mind that he's already got that drawn up.
100%.
He's already got that ready to go for Oklahoma State. He's already got that ready to go for Arizona, whatever. But when it happens, Alonzo, I am definitely going to claim credit for it.
I can't wait to jump on Twitter and you're like, I told you all, the flying OC.
I told you this was going to happen.
It happened. By the way, the image I have in my head of Coach Witt and Coach Ludd just running into each other like King Kong and Godzilla to keep each other out of the rooms is an incredible visual. An incredible visual.
But that's what's so interesting about it, right? Is that it's very easy to turn Kyle Whittingham into King Kong.
Right.
It's easy.
Easy.
You just close your eyes, you're like, oh, yep. Yeah, that's he's got like the way he walks, he's got kind of like that little bit hunched head forward, like traps blown up type posture sometimes.
He's got calves that have their own zip code.
You know, and like Coach Ludd is not that. I saw him at the farmer's market once. I don't want to blow up his spot.
Yeah, but I say.
Like the man apparently gets produce every now and again at the farmer's market. I'm sure I was not the only person who recognized him, but it's not like he was getting mobbed.
No.
He's unassuming. You know?
Unassuming is the most dangerous kind of assuming.
Correct. So that's why it's so fascinating to me, this relationship, because Kyle Whittingham is obviously more than any coach in college football, he's obviously like the intellectual, cultural, physical alpha. He's the guy who's just like, all right, let's go. You know what? You want to challenge me? You better be able to get on that whiteboard and prove it to me. But he's also the guy who's like, you want to challenge me? Let's go out on the grass, and one of us is leaving bloody. Like, that's what we think of with Kyle Whittingham.
Right.
That's not how we see Andy Ludwig, and yet here he is masterminding an offense that continues with the right personnel to do things at a championship level. I'm just unbelievably impressed. I'm finding, I don't know, ridiculous, long-winded ways to tell you how impressed I am with Andy Ludwig and his ability to utilize all of Kyle Whittingham's strengths, and they are myriad, but utilize those in a way that fits an offense that he also wants to call and run, because that matters when you're a coordinator, and will, for whatever reason, be the only person that Kyle Whittingham found that recipe with.
Well, and again, it's collaboration. Like, you have to be able to meet in the middle to collaborate.
But yes, you're right.
But you also have to buy into the culture. If you don't buy into the culture, none of this matters.
I know this, all right? I know some of the other coordinators that Kyle Whittingham hired. Some of them we liked, some of them we didn't like, right? Some of them are coordinators at other schools. Some of them are working in the NFL now. I mean, they're scattered to the wind. Right? All of those guys went into that job with the same goal. I'm going to collaborate with that coach. I'm going to draw on his strengths. I'm going to use it in this offense, and I'm going to create a beautiful product. And only one of them actually did so. And not because the others don't know football or the others can't identify talent or they're not creative with their play calling or any other reason that you might want to tag it. Like, all of these other guys were really good, smart, excellent coaches, and it's been proven in other places in a lot of ways. And yet, that guy, Andy Ludwig, has the secret sauce. He has the I know how to communicate with Kyle Whittingham. Everybody in the country would like to coordinate with that guy and be like, I want to be part of that culture. I want to be in the same job for a decade plus. I want to be here in Salt Lake City where I'm getting paid well and we're competing for high-level stuff and I have players I can be proud of and a program I can be proud of. And Andy Ludwig is the guy who has figured out the recipe for maximizing Kyle Whittingham and helping him turn into the coach that he is, into the absolute legend that he is. Kyle Whittingham is that. He is going to go down as one of the most universally beloved, universally respected men in Utah sports history. He's going to have a statue outside of the stadium if he allows it.
Stair climber. Naming the stair climber.
And I hope that there is at least some acknowledgement on the podium, on the stand, on the pedestal where that bronze stands of Andy Ludwig's role in that being there. Is it the Broyles Award? The Broyles Award is the award for the best assistant coach in college football every year.
I believe so. That name sounds correct.
Andy Ludwig should be on that list every year.
Well, and to no one's surprise, what was it last year when supposedly there was a rumor or innuendo that he was flirting with Notre Dame about being their OC? There's a reason why, right? Because like you said, it's the secret sauce. That's a good thing, in my opinion.
It's awesome. Let me ask you this question.
Sure.
When Kyle Whittingham retires, does Andy Ludwig also retire?
That's a fantastic question. The things I know about Coach Ludd are my guy loves football, and it's just in his DNA, right? He doesn't strike me as the type of guy that, because from what I understand and from what is kind of gathered, because in order for this to be, because I feel like this has all been special, right, the last couple of years, and in order for that to work, everyone kind of has to be able to work on the same page. And I do think him and Coach Scally can work together and keep the trend going. However, it wouldn't surprise me if he's like, you know what, we had a good run. Let's pass the guard.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Especially if, I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but let's say they win the conference and have a special season, as a lot of folks think that they may. Why not go out on top? That's how I'd like to go out.
I mean,
you went out on top.
I've built this case many times. Being done with the sport before the sport is done with you, whatever game you're in, is a unique thing. It's more unique than it should be, because there's opportunities on every Super Bowl team, on every NBA Finals team, on every World Series champion. There's opportunities on those rosters for the guys that are kind of at the top end of their careers, that are aging out, so to speak.
Eric Weddle.
Player and coach. There's opportunities on every one of those rosters for people to be like, okay, that was good. I'm going to go out on a high note. And it's so rare that people do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It drives me nuts.
Well, and I mean, again, Eric Weddle is the perfect example. Torn pec.
I mean, our guy is a folk hero.
Yeah.
There needs to be a movie about that run specifically.
100%. I agree with that.
Like, even if you were just a sports fan who had no loyalty to, no attachment to the University of Utah, to Eric Weddle, to the Chargers, to the Ravens, to the Rams, to any of the franchises he played for, if I told you, in a time where one man needed a Super Bowl to cement a Hall of Fame legacy, if I scripted for you the story of getting called off the couch and going from basically a non-contact game to the green dot guy calling a defense in the Super Bowl over the course of 5 weeks, if I just made the movie about the 5 weeks and left out the rest of the career, you would want to see that movie.
100%. I mean, honestly, let's produce a podcast at this point. I'll take anything, just because that story, like you said, even those 5 weeks, because obviously we've heard some stuff from Weddle and others kind of around that. That 5 weeks is an incredible 5 weeks.
It was an insane week.
But again, I mean, at some point I actually would like to see, whether it be a 30 for 30 or a movie or a doc or whatever, about this kind of run that Utah football has had, from everything happening, the enforcement of Aaron Lowe and Ty Jordan up to now. That would be a solid documentary as well.
You know what I need? I need for the 30 for 30 crew to do it, because I got real high hopes on the Netflix Untold people,
and they let you down.
With that Manti Te'o. That was, by the way, that was a local director.
Oh, it was?
Yeah. That was made and sold by a local.
Did not know that.
If you're going to do it, if you're going to do the story of 22 Forever and championships, and maybe, just maybe, in 2024, a ride-off into the sunset championship run, I need it to be that guy making the movie and not whoever did the Steve McNair one or the Swamp Kings one on Netflix Untold.
For a second, I thought you were going to say like Jared Brockenheimer or something like that.
No, just lens flares all over the place.
All over the place.
Optimus Prime shows up for no reason.
Is that Thor? Like, what's going?
Why is Megan Fox leaning over a car?
Hey, ratings. No, and I'll be honest. Like, Coach Ludd is for me, like you said, he's one of those like special coaches. But to your point, in all of sports, right? You talk about those like you, the perfect example with Jerry Sloan and Phil. Like, if you don't, not to diminish Coach Ludd, but if you don't have that right hand, you're not able to kind of get over that hump, for lack of a better term. Because even with Urban had Kyle.
Yes.
Like, some people forget that part.
Urban's staff was phenomenal at the University of Utah.
Elite. All-time staff. All-time staff.
Great staff. And look, he deserves credit for that, because one of the things that is toughest when you are a genius in anything is to recognize genius in other people.
Yes.
And to trust that other people are as good or better than you at their particular craft, their particular job. In fact, I don't like to get political on this show. The right person to run the country is whoever turned the Chicago Cubs and the Boston Red Sox into World Series champions again.
Theo Epstein, 2024.
I'd vote for him instantly. You know why? Because he just recognizes talent and he delegates.
Yep.
That's what we need somebody to do at the very top. All right. We got to take a break. Coach Ludd said this Baylor Bears defense actually returns a lot of starters. 10 starters return from last year. It wasn't a great defensive year, though. And Dave Aranda is now calling the shots. The voice of the Baylor Bears, John Morris, is going to join us next. We'll talk about what Utah should expect from this Big 12 opponent that's not actually a Big 12 opponent in Week 2. Sean O'Connell Show just getting rolling on ESPN 700.
Jordan Noyes kicks it off. It's a high end-over-end kick, backpedaling and taking it. K.D. Nixon 2 yards deep into the end zone. Nixon trying to get to the outside, breaks a tackle, and then he's tripped up at about the 17.5-yard line. University of Utah covering that well, and it was Hayden Fury, the backup linebacker, that made the tackle. So USC will begin things with about an 83-yard field in front of them. And Scott, the guy we'll keep an eye on tonight, wears number 15. His name is Drake London, and he's the best wide receiver in the Pac-12, maybe the best wide receiver in college football.
Yeah, and I think USC will come out and try to just get quick passes, let athletes go on athletes, and just say our athletes are better. But yeah, Drake London is going to be a challenge for Utah tonight. It'll be interesting to see how Utah handles it.
Keaton Slovis brings out the offense, 1st and 10 from his own 17-yard line. Keontae Ingram in the backfield with him, a 3-wide look here on 1st down, a play-action pass. Pocket collapses, Slovis throwing to the outside. It's caught at the 30-yard line by Drake London. His 49th catch of the year, 17, making a 13-yard gain on 1st down. The pass rush was there. It didn't quite get home, and he completes the first pass of the game.
Yeah, and they're kind of getting to Slovis quickly, but that's just too easy of a throw. It's one-on-one here, and then Drake London won that one-on-one.
1st and 10 at the 30-yard line. Turn and a give and a play-action roll. Firing to the outside. Flanker screen. That's Bryant. He's got it to the 40 and cut down at the 43-yard line. Gary Bryant, freshman who's having a terrific freshman year. They're going to go with some tempo now with USC. That's a 13-yard gain and another 1st down. And USC off to a good start throwing the football.
Yeah, I mean, they go 20 yards here, 40 yards in a quick turnaround here. But those bubble screens, that's what was a problem for Utah last year in Salt Lake City, and they didn't handle it well on this first play.
Trips to the left-hand side, a tight end and a tailback of the ball game. Utah with a 4-man down front, 5 now at the line of scrimmage for Utah. Slovis operates out of the shotgun. Keaton Slovis brings Drake London to the inside in the left slot. They hand it to Ingram. Ingram bounces to the outside, tripped up and taken down as he picks up a yard. That was Devin Lloyd shooting the gap and grabbing Keontae Ingram around the ankle. for a 1-yard gain, 2nd down and 9 coming up.
Yeah, and good to see from Devin playing downhill and making a tackle there in open field. It's hard to do, and these athletes at USC, they're going to test you all night long.
Keontae Ingram sounds familiar. He ran for over 100 yards and a touchdown against Utah in the Alamo Bowl a couple of years ago, playing for Texas. Slovis going to change the play at the line of scrimmage now. He sees what he likes in the Utah defense. Now they shift around. Slovis on 2nd down and 9, hands it again to Ingram straight up the middle. Keontae Ingram second level to the Utah 49-yard line. It'll be a gain of about 6 yards, maybe 7. It'll be 3rd down and 2 coming up here for USC. Yeah, and this is the money down.
It did, no question, money down, but an interesting play there. Utah had everyone lined up on their right side, and then USC changed the play, and then Utah went away from it, and they ran right into where all the other players would have been. They should have stayed where they were.
So 3rd down and 3 here, first 3rd down of the evening. Utah crowding the box. Slovis takes and gives on the fly sweep to Drake London, who's got first down yardage at the 45. He needed 3. He picked up 5. They do a little bit of everything with Drake London. That's a gain and a first down for USC to the Utah 45-yard line.
Yeah, it's like a jet sweep without the jet part. He just kind of at the snap just takes it, and really all it is a normal sweep play to the outside, well blocked, well.
Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Fun show lined up. We just caught up with Andy Ludwig. We got Brett McMurphy coming in 23 minutes. Right now, we are joined by the voice of the Baylor Bears, John Morris, kind enough to give us some time as we preview the game this weekend, Utah versus Baylor, in a Big 12 contest that is not actually a Big 12 contest. John, how are you?
John, doing great. And first, I'll shout out to James for that update, getting all those names right from the U.S. Open. That was impressive. That was very impressive.
He's like an actual dyed-in-the-wool tennis fan, so these are not new names for him. And, yeah, shout out to James for getting the pronunciations right, which, of course, is for you, important in your job, especially when you're playing teams like the University of Utah. We had an endeavor. We had an endeavor last week where a lot of people were coming at me like, "Hey," because we had the television play-by-play guy on, and like, you were supposed to tell him about these pronunciations and you didn't. I don't want to take responsibility for that, John, but I'm forewarning you. I know that you're already familiar.
Yes, and I'm not ready yet. It's Wednesday for the pronunciations, but I will be by Saturday, and looking forward to it. And we're looking forward to the trip to Salt Lake City. And like you said, isn't it interesting that it's 2 Big 12 schools, but it's not a Big 12 game on Saturday?
And we're all kind of, at least most Big 12 fans, Utes fans and Baylor fans, I think, are both in this group, coming off of a 1-0 start for your favorite team and not really sure what you've seen yet because the level of competition in most of these Week 1 games was just so-so. There's a lot of FCS versus Power 4 matchups here. That was the case for Baylor. They took on Tarleton State 45-3 for all of you out there who are listening and don't know what Baylor's coming off of. So I lean on you and your expertise and your familiarity. Did you like what you saw? Was there a red flag or two raised even though it was a 45-3 victory? Tell me.
Yeah, good question. No red flags. I thought it was really good opener for Baylor. You know, there are degrees of a win, you know, in that opening week. Ask Texas Tech how they feel, you know, coming off a game when they won, but 52-51 over Abilene Christian. So there's degrees there in those opening games. And for Baylor, I thought it was really good. They sort of checked all the boxes that they wanted to see and get done in the first game. Offense played well. There were 2 turnovers. So that gives them something to work on, you know, this week going into week 2. Defense played well, only gave up a field goal, played a lot of guys, didn't get anybody hurt. So I think all those things were positives for Baylor. But, man, it's a different ball game this week, and everybody knows that, you know, going into the game against Utah.
So we're familiar with Dave Aranda around here in these parts, and he's well-liked. He's a universally respected guy for the most part. He's calling his own defense this year. Did it look different in week one than what you saw, at least on the defensive side of the ball, last season?
Yeah, I can't say for sure. That will probably be something that'll be more evident as we continue through the season. But again, I thought it was a very solid defensive effort. I can't say that I saw things that I thought, oh, that's Dave, making that call on that play. But it was good. I mean, when you only give up 3 points like Baylor did to Tarleton State, and they had a couple of stands in there, I thought it was good. And this was a move that Dave thought would make the team better, make the defense better. So I'm glad he's doing it. It's not easy. He's wearing 2 hats, at a very high level, being the head coach and the defensive coordinator. But if there's anybody that can do it, Dave is organized enough and smart enough guy that he can pull it off.
Voice of the Baylor Bears is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. We're talking with John Morris, who'll be in Salt Lake City to call the game this weekend as Utah takes on Baylor. And look, conversations about a college football team often begin and end with the quarterback position. That's certainly true for the Utes. Cam Rising, who I know you're well aware of, a lot of people talk about his experience, and he's in his 7th year. DeQuan Finn, not too far behind, and I think an equally fascinating player at that quarterback position. Tell me about big number 12.
Yeah, I think you're right. He doesn't have quite the experience that Cam Rising does, but it's not far behind because he played very well at Toledo. He was the MAC Player of the Year last year, led them to an 11-2 record. He's thrown for, I think, looking at the notes, I think he's thrown for more yards in his career so far than Cam Rising has. So he has some pelts on the wall. He has done well. He's got a lot of experience under his belt. Obviously, a grad transfer to Baylor this year. It's a new offense for Baylor, and I think DeQuan Finn really checks the boxes of what Baylor needed in a quarterback to run this new spread, wide-open offense.
Who are his best weapons? Because you can't do it by yourself, especially against a Utah defense like this.
Yeah, definitely true. We got some backs to keep an eye on. Richard Reese is really good. Dawson Pendergrass. Dominic Richardson is a running back. He didn't play Saturday. Hopefully he'll be ready this week. And then we've got a really good, I think, array of receivers. Small guys, medium-sized guys, fast guys. They're all fast, but then some big guys also. Monterey Baldwin is on the smaller side, but he is fast as lightning and really good. Katron Jackson is in his 2nd year here after transferring from Arkansas. He's a really good receiver. And then Baylor likes to throw to the tight ends. I know Utah leads the world in that category, but our coaches and our play offense, they like to dial up the tight ends also. So we've got several tight ends you'll see in the game. So there are weapons, and you're right. No matter how good a quarterback is, he can't do it by himself. So you got to have those other playmakers around him.
Is Michael Trigg healthy?
Think so. Yeah, he caught a touchdown pass the other night, and I didn't see anything or hear anything about him not being healthy. So I think he is.
I ask because we spent a lot of time watching the Pac-12 and trying to project who is going to be a great player in the Pac-12, and then here we are in a transfer portal era, and you're in the Big 12 now. Utah's in the Big 12 now, and a bunch of guys that you had to scout and you had to look for in the Pac-12 are on some of these rosters, and that's the case with big number 86, Michael Trigg, who started his career at a Pac-12 school.
Yeah. No, we're glad to have him. He's a big target. They threw to him several times. The stats in front of me, but he did have a touchdown catch the other night. So I'm glad we've got him. He fits in well with this group of receivers.
John Morris, the voice of the Baylor Bears, for just another couple minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. The unpleasant part of this business sometimes is that a team starts a season and we get these hot seat lists and, hey, you didn't have the success you wanted last year and now you're allegedly coaching for your job. Teams are aware of it. Players are aware of it. Fan bases are aware of it. How has the Baylor community kind of managed the situation with Dave Aranda, who, again, we're familiar with and everyone here likes him for the most part? that maybe his back's against the wall a little bit.
Sure. No, and he would be the first one to tell you that. I mean, he knows that. He knows the situation that he and the program are in going into this year. That's why he, in the offseason, made a number of coaching staff changes. I think we've got 6 new assistant coaches on the staff. So that's part of that. Dave taking over defensive play calling like we talked about. That's part of that also. And, if something happens, it's not for lack of effort on Dave Aranda's part, because he's doing everything he can to make Baylor a winner again. And listen, it was just 3 years ago that he coached Baylor to a Big 12 championship, Sugar Bowl win over Ole Miss. It was the best season in Baylor football history, 12-2, 3 years ago. So the guy hadn't forgotten how to coach. But you're right, there is some pressure there externally, and I think he handles it really well. When we do the coaches show and do weekly interviews with him, it's not something that he dwells on, but he knows it. And, again, I think he's doing everything he can, he and the staff, to make sure he's here next year and into the future.
John, have you spent time in Salt Lake City previously?
I have, and I love it. I love coming out there. We played in the NCAA tournament there, basketball, a few years ago, and then I did an NCAA tournament game there way back, like 1997. And then we've been to Provo a few times also, but really love coming out to Salt Lake City, to Utah, and looking forward to the trip this week. I understand Rice Eccles will be rocking, and our guys, that's another part of the game. They're going to have to handle that road environment on Saturday, but really looking forward to the trip.
I'm seeing sunny with a high of 91. It'll be great for football in Salt Lake City. So have a great call. Appreciate you joining me on the show today. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate you having me on. Thanks very much. Hope to see you Saturday.
John Morris, voice of the Baylor Bears. Dave Aranda-led team comes in, like I said, with some angst, some worry potentially. We'll take a quick one here. I'm going to come back and tell you why Baylor is sneaky dangerous. Not going to be a favorite, but a sneaky dangerous team for this Utah squad on Saturday. Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.
Yeah, really nice play by Cam here, and this is something that he's willing to do. The pocket breaks down, he gets outside of leverage, and he runs. I mean, he's got some wheels on him. I mean, great job. That's a 10.
Jordan Noyes has it teed off on the north 35-yard line. He'll kick to the south. And we're ready to play football here tonight at Rice-Eccles Stadium. A high end-over-end kick that will go into the end zone and be returned. And now they'll say a touchback. He gave the sign for the fair catch. That was Rashad White, and then he decided to bring it out. You can't do that, so ASU will have it 1st and 10 at their own 25-yard line. And we will see for the first time tonight the guy that committed to Utah, they changed his mind. That's quarterback Jaden Daniels, a 6'3 junior who's really good, Scott, a dual-threat quarterback.
Yeah, he's going to be a challenge for Utah. He's a guy that can throw the ball very accurately, and he can also make and extend plays running the football. So it'll be interesting to see how Utah handles him tonight.
It won't be White, though, that starts out in the backfield. It'll be Tranum that will be in the backfield. Chip takes it. Play action pass. Daniels looking down the field, throwing down the field. Is it caught? It is. Ricky Pearsall makes the grab on the near sideline for a gain of, what are they going to call it, 12 yards and a first down. So a little play action on first down. Pearsall gets both feet down, and a 12-yard gain here for the Devils. First down and 10. They'll move it to the 37-yard line. Utah with a 4-man down front. They'll spread the field with 4 wide receivers. Daniels this time will hand off. Right side, pushing the pile forward to about the 40-yard line and a gain of 3. Decent run on the play that time by Arizona State off that right-hand side.
Yeah, that's a good sign there by Utah. Playing downhill early in this game is so important for this defense. You can't let this offensive line get into these linebackers in the second level.
Train on the back of the backfield on 2nd down and 7 from the ASU 40, and Utah crowding the line of scrimmage. Daniels now changing the play. 2 tights and 2 wides here for the Devils as Daniels operates out of the gun. He'll scramble to his right and get into the open field beyond the 45 and diving out near midfield to about the 50-yard line. He picks up 10 yards. That's what he can do.
Les Schwab has the tires, wheels, and accessories for whatever you drive, so stop by a local Les Schwab, and professionals there will get the job done right the first time. Sean O'Connell Show. Brett Murphy joining us in about 7-8 minutes here to start. What's that? What is that?
There was a video review, and a retroactive flag has been thrown on you.
Wait a second. What is that?
That was a referee whistle.
Oh, so when we throw the flag, we got a whistle now?
We have a whistle.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah, our budget went up a little bit.
What? You're telling me that this was upon review?
Upon review.
All right.
The eyes in the sky reviewed it, and the ears in the sky, and the flag. It's a 15-yarder, unnecessary roughness for blowing up Coach Ludd's spot at the farmers market because you were also buying produce at the farmers market.
Should I be ashamed of that?
No, you shouldn't. But the way you made it sound like Andy should have been a little ashamed.
Oh, no, I was not trying to imply that Andy Ludwig is not entitled to search for his kale and radishes at a farmer's market.
Just like you? That's interesting. That's weird.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Outing yourself like that.
There's nothing wrong with that. By the way, it's peach season. You can get some excellent peaches at the downtown farmers markets, at the Wheeler Farm farmers market.
From my peach tree in my front yard, I need to bring you some, by the way.
Dude, the deer came through and decimated my peach trees this year.
Oh, mine snapped in half, so I'm a little butthurt about that.
You should be.
Because all the weight from the absorbent amount of peaches that I get in my front yard.
Bring me a box.
I will, because I have that many.
We go absolutely ham sandwich on peaches at my house.
The squirrels, the atomic squirrels in my neighborhood are stoked on life right now.
Did somebody really come in with the video review telling me I shouldn't have called that Andy Ludwig?
There was. I'm not snitches get stitches, so we're not going to put anyone on blast about that, but it's a fair review in my opinion. By the way, YouTube, if you're watching the show on the YouTube, there's comments on there. One of the comments that we got on there, apparently there's been more comments since so I had to scroll up here.
Oh, great.
They're actually good comments.
Oh, okay.
One of them was I think it's the Defiant LLC. Sean, you will 100% get the credit for the parentheses OC0 and Alpha package.
Okay.
That's been bookmarked.
I like that. So when Andy Ludwig runs a 6 tight end set and I claim credit for it, there's at least one person who's going to agree.
Yeah. I mean, I agreed with you.
Okay.
I said we call it the OC Flying V. That's what we should call it.
I like that.
Homage to one of your other favorite sports, the hockey.
The Almighty Ducks. We got some hockey news on the show coming up in 30 minutes, by the way.
Breaking.
For the Utah Hockey Club. Good things happening. I told you that Baylor is sneaky dangerous because Baylor is so much better than Southern Utah, even though their results last year were not what people needed, even though their schedule this year is going to make it look really, really difficult for them. Tarleton State, that's an easy one. They've got Utah, then Air Force, which as a mid-major team, nobody harder to prepare for than Air Force. You have to do everything completely different. You have to throw out your playbooks. You have to run practice in a brand new fashion. A lot of times you have to find the best athlete on your team and teach him really quick on the scout team how to run the option. It's just weird. Then they're on the road at Colorado. They've got BYU at home. They're on the road at Iowa State, then a bye week at Texas Tech. They do have Oklahoma State at home, but Oklahoma State and TCU in back-to-back weeks doesn't sound like any kind of fun. They finished their season West Virginia, Houston, and Kansas. Look, it's going to be a tough year for Baylor, but 49-0 over Southern Utah for the Utes last week. Baylor is a much stiffer test. They don't have the depth that you've got at Utah. They don't have the elite talent at some of the key positions, but DeQuan Finn is nasty. DeQuan Finn has scored 88 touchdowns. He's accounted for 88 touchdowns in his career, most of those at Toledo, and obviously now he's at Baylor. DeQuan Finn is a load, 6'2", 200-plus pounds. He can run. He can throw. He is a problem at that quarterback position, and he's got some decent weapons. So they're sneaky dangerous because on paper, nothing overly impressive, but they brought some key guys in the transfer portal, and the most key position, obviously, is that quarterback spot. I think DeQuan Finn is underrated. I introduced to you last week a new partner on the Sean O'Connell Show, our friends at Farmer and Chemist. If you have not gone down to historic Main Street in Midvale and checked out their incredible suite of products or gone online at farmerandchemist.com, first of all, shame on you. You're wasting time. But Jeff is here with us to lend some more of their expertise. Welcome to the show again. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing all right. We got a special delivery to the studios today from Farmer and Chemist for Alonzo, who's post-surgery. He had surgery on a finger. He's dealing with some pain. Farmer and Chemist to the rescue.
We're hoping it works. Yeah. So we've got some inflammation going on there and some other things, and so we've got some salve and some edibles and or some gummies. So we're hoping it works for him.
Most people come to you dealing with not necessarily surgical recovery, but chronic pain seems to be the number one call to action when it comes to these CBD products, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of emerging science about the uses of CBD, but it's well established. There's a ton of studies and data showing that it's a really good anti-inflammatory. It works well for pain and also for sleep and anxiety. Those are the main uses. Also
for the pets. I know that everyone who listens to this show, it's a requirement that you have to be a dog lover. You have a full load of pet products. I use them when my now deceased Mr. President, wonderful dog, in the end of his life, when you get a 12-year-old Mastiff, you got to deal with some pain management, and it was CBD products that helped him.
Yeah, CBD and the other cannabinoids work in cats and dogs just like it works in humans, and so it's really good for inflammation, pain, also anxiety, fireworks, or they get anxious or something like that. It works really works really well there too. So I had a German Shepherd growing up, and they're they're predisposed to have a hip dysplasia, so bad hips. And I actually wish we would have had CBD back for my dog because it would have helped them a lot.
If not for yourself, I promise you it will work for your dog. It worked for mine. Farmer and Chemist, as I said, down there on historic Main Street in Midvale, online at farmerandchemist.com, and a special offer for ESPN 700 listeners.
Yes, mention ESPN 700 either online or in the store and receive 20% off your order.
We're also going to give away some Farmer and Chemist gift cards in our topical trivia at the end of the show. So you're going to have to go pick those up at Farmer and Chemist. Instead of coming down here to the studio and bothering Alonzo, we're just going to have you go down to the store, pick it up, be right there in store to use it. Main Street in Midvale, beautiful shop, and it's all pharmacist-directed product, pharmacist-directed sales. You guys are really taking care of folks on a level that a lot of CBD products are not really addressing at this point.
Yeah, and we want everybody to hopefully understand that not all CBD is equal. There's a lot of sketchy products on the market, so find one that works and is well tested. And we would love to have you come in and talk to a pharmacist, and we can walk through the right route of administration, the right product, the right dose, and find something that's going to work.
9 to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday 10 to 5, closed on Sundays, Farmer and Chemist in Midvale. Jeff, thank you.
Thank you.
Brett McMurphy joins us next. We'll talk about the landscape of college football and Utah's place in it. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Sean O'Connell Show on a Wednesday. Brett McMurphy joins me, America's college football insider. He's at Action Network. You've been reading his breaking news for years, and now we're lucky enough to talk to him. Brett, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good afternoon, Sean. How you doing?
You know what? Doing great. Excited for Utah to play a conference opponent that is not actually a non-conference game this weekend. Baylor coming to Salt Lake City. We know the situation with Dave Aranda kind of on a hot seat. What do you make of this game, especially the fact that it's not technically a conference game?
Yeah, well, college coaches always say there's really no preseason in a college game. Well, this technically, I guess, would be a preseason game, but obviously it's much bigger than that. This is a make or break season for Dave Aranda at Baylor. You kind of alluded to that. A lot of pressure on him to succeed. He took over or reassumed the play calling duties on defense. That's kind of the situation he's in. I don't know if desperation is the right word, but I think he's smart enough to realize he needs to have a successful season, and changed offensive coordinator, basically changed their philosophy on offense. So this will be, obviously Utah is a pretty big favorite over 2 touchdowns, but I did think it was interesting. I think the line opened at Utah -17. It quickly dropped down to 14. So I guess maybe some of the smarter people think it's going to be, I know it's going to be a lot more competitive than last week against Southern Utah, but it could go deep into the second half with the game in doubt. But yeah, ultimately, I picked Utah to win the Big 12. I'm not changing on that, and I expect Utah to win this game, and then we'll see in a couple weeks when they go to Stillwater and actually start the Big 12 season for real.
A lot of the optimism surrounding Utah football is attached to Cam Rising and his health. And we saw him running the ball and getting hit last week, and he came out of that as unscathed as you can come out of a college football game, which was encouraging. Where do you have Cam Rising among the top QBs in the college game this year?
He's not going to put up, because of the offense that Utah runs, he's not going to put up the numbers of Sanders of Colorado or Nico in Tennessee or all these other folks. But you know what? As far as being his importance to a team, if he's not 1A, then he's 1B, and I don't know who 1A would be, because I think he means more to Utah than possibly any player on any team. I kind of liken him to, you look at Jordan Travis with Florida State last year and what a difference they were when he got hurt. You guys saw it firsthand. You're right there. You saw what happened last year without him. And, it's just, he's the glue factor. He's the it guy. He's got it all. Everybody rallies around him. And you can't put a stat on that. You can't say, well, but, this guy threw for 100 more yards or ran for 50 more. It doesn't matter. With Rising in there, it's obvious from watching Utah, the past few years, that Utah believes they can win any game they're in with him back there. And you can't quantify what that's worth. But as far as the value compared with other teams, other quarterbacks in the country, he's not going to win a lot of stat battles with other people. But as far as the intangibles and the other things, which a lot of coaches would say is more important, he's at the very top of the list.
So you said that you picked Utah to win the Big 12 championship. That would put them in a college football playoff. Do you think that the Big 12 has a runner-up or maybe even 2 other teams in this eventual 12-team college football playoff? The depth of the conference and parity in the league, which is the same as what the Pac-12 had that hurt that league for so many years, makes me wonder about the postseason for this Big 12 conference.
Yeah, you're right. You guys saw it firsthand in the Pac-12. And look, I'll be up front. If you weren't aware, I'm an Oklahoma State alum. I don't think the Big 12 gets two teams in the playoff. I think everybody's going to beat each other up. Cannibalization, easy for me to say, will happen near the top. You've got literally a handful of – you've got 5 teams in the AP preseason – or excuse me, in the AP poll right now. I actually have 6 on my ballot in my top 25. And there's probably a couple of others that could actually win this thing. I think the runner-up in this league probably has 3 losses, maybe 4, and I don't know necessarily if a 9-3, or I guess it would be a 10-3 Big 12 runner-up, how that would match up with teams from the SEC and the Big 10. That I'm not necessarily saying that runner-up wouldn't be as good as the runner-ups from the SEC or the Big 10, but the SEC or Big 10 will probably have a better strength of schedule, because while there's 5 teams in the top 25 right now, once they start playing each other and beating up on each other, I think those numbers will reduce down. So, unless something weird happens and there's 2 teams from the league that kind of rise above everybody else and prove that they're the clear-cut best team in the league, kind of like TCU did a couple of years ago, I'm afraid that it's unlikely that the Big 12 runner-up gets into the playoff. I hope I'm wrong, because I obviously want the Big 12 to succeed, but I just think that the depth is just so incredible at the top of this league that it's going to make for great TV for people watching it, but I think ultimately it could ding them when we get to December and they're picking the playoff teams.
Brett McMurphy, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking about right now the Big 12 Conference. As we talk about that parity and the teams that can chew up other teams and maybe spoil things, what role do you think Colorado plays in that whole picture? Obviously, they're a very interesting team because of their coach. They're interesting personnel-wise with 2 of the biggest stars in all of college football. It seems like they have maybe some of the same issues developing along the line of scrimmage that we saw from them last year, but we got to give it time to develop. What role does Colorado play in the title picture, if any?
I hate when people say, to be honest, because then it's like, oh, everything you've said up to that point isn't true. But to be honest, from 0 to 100%, 0%. I don't think they're a factor at all. I don't think, unless they pull off an upset, Kansas State, they have Kansas State, Arizona, Utah, Oklahoma State on the schedule. So there's opportunities there. Look, in the Big 12 right now, they're projected to be an underdog in every game. Okay, they play Nebraska this week, and you're right. They have the same issues that they have had last year. Sanders is an unbelievable talent at quarterback. Travis Hunter, incredible athlete at wide receiver and at cornerback. But ultimately, if the offensive line can't protect Sanders, if the defensive line can't stop North Dakota State from running the ball, then what's going to happen when they face the likes of Utah and Kansas State? If their secondary can't stop North Dakota State, what's going to happen when they face, Oklahoma State, Kansas? My God, Arizona. T-Mac may have 1,000 yards receiving in that game. And look, it's just, people are like, well, why are you so negative on Colorado? I'm not. You're asking me what I think about their team. I don't think they're that talented. I think they're going to fall short of getting to a bowl game for the 2nd consecutive year. Obviously, they get a great deal of publicity. It's great for the conference. It's great for the revenue they get off the ads during those TV games. But ultimately, I don't see them being a factor in the league. I don't think they'll get the 6 games. And, maybe they knock off somebody down the stretch that impacts the race, but they're certainly not going to be they're not going to be in contention for the Big 12 championship.
It's such a weird phenomenon. And look, I'm part of the problem. I'm asking you a question about it on the home of the Utes.
About a 4-win team last year. Yeah, I know. That's just how it is, though.
But it what fascinates me most is that, look, if Travis Hunter is an all-conference level wide receiver and an all-conference level corner, he should win a Heisman Trophy. But can you give a Heisman Trophy to a guy who's on a 5-win team or a 4-win team?
No, you can't give it Heisman Trophy to a guy on an 8 or 7 win team either. So, he can't win it unless Colorado wins 9, 10 games. I vote for the Heisman, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people that vote for it, I don't have a certain thing that I look at, but I think the majority of voters simply look for the quarterback that's on a team that's playing in a conference championship, or a guy that's got a chance to get to the playoff. And it's going to be hard for a non-quarterback to win this thing because of how important quarterbacks are in the college game now. And it's especially going to be impossible for anybody to win it on a team that's, it's 500 or worse. I mean, Jaden Daniels won it last year. They were 9-3. That last game against Texas A&M went down to the wire. If they lose that game, LSU goes 8-4, and I don't think Daniels wins it. I really don't. And so I think that's how important it is. Your team has to be successful. This isn't, 50 years ago or longer when Paul Hornady won it with Notre Dame. I think they were 2-7, and he won the Heisman. Oh boy, what if there was Twitter back then? But yeah, unless Colorado, rolls out double-digit wins, then he won't win the Heisman. But if that happens, then he'll win the Heisman. Deion will get a new job somewhere else. The NFL president of the United States somewhere, and Colorado will be in the playoff.
Brett McMurphy for a few more minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. As long as we're talking about Heisman, Cam Rising's name doesn't come up in that conversation. But if Utah is a conference championship team and they're a 3 or 4 seed in an expanded college football playoff, and maybe they're a one-loss champ, whatever, and you said it, I think, very well in the earlier part of this conversation, nobody's more important to their team than Cam Rising. And maybe he would not be the statistical king in any category, but if he's the straw that stirs the drink on a playoff team, could Cam Rising go to New York?
Yes, he could. Again, I just think it would be unlikely because let's just look at, again, there's a laundry list of people that could be up for this. If Ole Miss gets to the playoff, Jackson Dart is going to have monster numbers with Lane Kiffin. We saw Cam Ward at Miami. If Miami wins the ACC, Dylan Gabriel with Oregon, if they contend for the Big Ten title. Miller Moss at USC. Lincoln Riley's had an incredible success getting guys to New York as quarterbacks. The list is a mile long. And again, that's not to take anything away from Cam. It's just he's not in the type of offense that produces that. Now, some of these guys that I mentioned and other folks stumble or don't have, big years, then yeah, I think it's a possibility. The other thing I think actually that helps him is that, I think, as recently as maybe 5 years ago, I know a lot of people would get hung up on stats. Well, this guy threw for more yards. This guy has more TD passes. This guy ran for more yards. Now, nobody knows these statistics anymore because they're all stupid, crazy numbers with the RPOs and all this stuff. So, the thing that benefits Cam is, if Utah wins the Big 12, I mean, certainly if Utah rolls out an 11-1 season, wins the Big 12, they only lose one game, and he plays like he has his entire career, then I'd say, yes, he'd have a very good shot to get to New York City. The other thing, and I've talked to the Heisman about this to no success, unfortunately, that hurts a lot of people, and it could impact Cam. It may not. We only have 3. We can only vote for 3 people. Okay. So, you may, when you limit it to only 3 people, you're leaving out a lot of people that are as deserving as those 3. But when you only got to pick 3, it really narrows the field. And so that's why it kind of laser focuses in on, okay, Jalen Milroe at Alabama, Carson Beck at Georgia. If those guys are playing for the SEC title, they're probably going to be on a ballot. The winner of the Big Ten is probably going to be on a ballot. There's 2 guys right there. So that's what's so difficult is that it's so limited. Where if I've asked them, just make it a 5-person ballot, because then you would get a lot of different people you could put on there, you wouldn't almost feel so pressured to microscope in on somebody that's on the best team, the quarterback of the best team, or a quarterback playing for the national title or a national title contending team. And it would almost be like, we vote for the top 20. I vote for the top 25 every week in the AP ballot. What if we could only vote for 5 teams? What would it look like? Well, there would be like 7 teams, and it'd be the same 7 teams every week. So, unfortunately, the Heisman's not going to change that this year, probably never. But I think that's probably the biggest challenge for Cam is anything short of an 11-win season. It's going to be difficult just because of all those factors that I laid out. And, some of these other guys may have a lot better numbers that some people may get mesmerized by.
Brett Murphy here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Brett, I have to address something. I tweeted about this because you put out your bowl projections and your projection for the college football playoff. And I think to the delight of many Utah fans, you have them, getting the first round bye. They're into the quarterfinal as a Big 12 champion. They get the 4 seed, and people like that. And then, you look against the projected matchup, and it's the Georgia Bulldogs, who you have not winning the SEC, not getting the first round bye, and getting past what would be the 12 seed in Texas State. And I look at it's that sobering reality of a year that we all hope Utah ends up in a college football playoff. And with that bye, it's like, okay, well, that's wonderful, but that second round game, that quarterfinal game is going to be an absolute monster, whether it's Georgia or it's Ohio State or Oregon or whoever it ends up being. This expanded college football playoff requires, even in a year where you win your conference championship and you get in, back-to-back-to-back games that are arguably going to be the biggest wins in program history. Utah versus Georgia, Brett. I hate seeing that, even though I think it might be accurate.
Well, it may not be Georgia, but here is the reality. And look, we still have 11, 12 weeks left. But keep this in mind. Like you said, the top 4 conference seeds get a bye. They don't play in the first round, and then they're seeded 1 through 4. Unless something really weird happens, the SEC champ will be the 1 seed, or the Big Ten SEC champs will be 1 and 2 or 2 and 1. And then the ACC and Big 12 champs will be 3 and 4, 4 and 3, however you want to do it. And you're right. This is the flat-out reality. The ACC champ and Big 12 champ will end up playing the SEC or Big 10 runner-up in their quarterfinal round, unless Notre Dame sneaks in the picture and they replace the SEC or Big 10 champ. And, I don't care who wins the Big 12, whether it's Utah, whether it's my Cowboys, whether it's UCF, it doesn't matter who it is. They are going to be an underdog in that game against the SEC or Big 10 runner-up. And so that's what's going to be so difficult for, the ACC and Big 12 champs is you're going to be playing teams that may be even ranked higher than you in the selection committee rankings, yet you're seated higher because you're a conference champ. Fans are going to flip out over that. Say the ACC champ is ranked number 17 in the rankings, yet they have the 4 seed. People will flip out over that. But you're right. Congrats. You get a first round bye, but the bad news is you're getting the runner up from the SEC or the Big Ten. I don't see any way that doesn't happen unless Notre Dame, which cannot be a top 4 seed because they're not in a conference, unless Notre Dame gets a 5 or 6 seed. But you're right. I'm pretty set on that. We'll see if I'm wrong, but that's the way I've been looking at this since the format came out, is that the Big 12 ACC champ will face the runners-up from the Big 10 and the SEC in that first-round game.
Last thing before we let you go, I wanted to get into some big picture here with and you've been tweeting about this, maybe some of it tongue-in-cheek, but obviously it is important. There are 3 teams in the ACC that are suing the ACC, and right now that hasn't translated to football success for them. But while these legal battles happen, does the resolution lead to another round of realignment? Do we see the ACC collapse, destabilize, and does the whole deck of cards get reshuffled in the short term?
Well, the first thing is it's not going to be anytime quick. So I want to be clear with that. The ACC is to use a strategy from one of their old ACC coaches, Dean Smith. They are in the four corners offense. They are doing stall ball as far as any legal issues. They want this to go as long as possible because once it's resolved, then Florida State knows what it costs to get out of the league. As far as are we going to have future realignment, I think it depends on what it costs Florida State and Clemson to get out of the ACC. If it's hundreds of millions of dollars, then you're not going to see a conga line out the door because nobody else can afford to do that. However, if we don't know what these judges or what these lawsuits are going to bring ultimately, but say the final resolution is that the grant of rights is invalid or not enforceable or whatever it is, and now you've got all the teams in the ACC and they can get out scot-free, kind of like the same way everybody got out of the Pac-12 scot-free.
Freshman Zamiah Vaughn matched up on Drake London right now. Let's.
From the
Utah. And then the ACC will kind of cobble together what's left from the American or Sun Belt or whatever, and try to keep their league together. It's kind of dependent on the major thing is how much it costs Florida State and Clemson to get out. If it costs them a ton of money, no one else is going to follow them out the door. If it's relatively cheap as far as those things go, then you'll see a lot of other schools get out because. And I reported this, it's been a few weeks, but if Florida State and Clemson are the only ones that can get out and the ACC stays intact, look, I talked to university presidents, I talked to conference personnel, I talked to TV execs. The Big Ten and the SEC do not want Florida State and Clemson. So I don't know what they're going to do. And like I said, I'm a Big 12 guy. Florida State's not spending millions and millions of dollars to go join the Big 12. So I don't know what those guys would do if that happens. But, yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see. But literally everybody in college athletics is kind of sitting around and waiting to see what happens with these lawsuits and what it's going to cost them to get out. And then once that's determined, we'll decide basically whether it's just those two teams or if it's going to be a, conga line out the door for the rest of the ACC.
Brett, appreciate your time today. See you in Stillwater.
You got it. Two recommendations. Everyone will tell you Eskimo Joe's. It's great. No doubt. Hideaway Pizza. It's less than a fourth of a mile from the stadium. Can't beat it. So enjoy Stillwater. You'll have a good time.
That is Brett McMurphy at Brett_McMurphy. He keeps you informed at Action Network. That's where who he's working for these days, but he's America's college football insider. Talked a lot of Big 12, and as always, the Big 12 at noon brought to you by Mountain Land Supply. Go to mountainlandsupply.com. All right, I asked him that question about conferences being destabilized because we've seen this movie before. We know what happens. And when you're left out in the cold, well, we have two examples of teams dealing with that right now. I'll tell you what I mean next on the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700.
And Nephi Sewell out with the ankle injury. Corrine Reed in for him. That last run by Keontae Ingram went for 28 yards. He's out of the game. Darwin Barlow in here. 1st and 10 for the Utah 47. 4 wide look here for SC and Slovis. He'll pass. Pressure coming off the edge. He tries to dump it off to Barlow, and it's deflected. Devin Lloyd got a piece of it. He was blitzing off that edge and got a piece of that ball before it could get to Barlow. Incomplete.
Yeah, and these are the plays you got to get. You got to make Slovis uncomfortable. It's a screen here. Great job by Devin anticipating just at the right time to knock the ball down.
Second down and 10 from the Utah 47, just underway here. 14:56 to play in the second quarter. Utah 7, USC 3. They'll move London into the right slot. 3 receivers to the right now. Barlow stays in the ball game. Slovis stays in the shotgun. They motion Drake London to the inside. That's going to be a run every time. Barlow bounces to the outside. He breaks a tackle, dodges another, and picks up 4 yards to the Utah 43. That'll bring up third down and 6.
And I know USC's running the ball a little bit here, but their mantra really is to throw it. That's what they know. That's
well, they never stick with it.
They don't.
They'll run it on you a little bit, but at the end of the day, they're going to go back to that pass.
And the answer against this defense is to run.
1 out of 3 on third down are the Trojans. They've got to get to the Utah 37. Slovis in the gun. Will Utah bring pressure this time? Yes, they will, and here they come. Slovis to the outside, too easy. Finds Washington inside the 35 and down to the 31. Utah was playing way off, and that was an easy pitch and catch of 12 yards and a first down.
Yeah, and USC just hasn't thrown the ball that long. You got to see that defensively, and with the motion, it kind of messed Utah up just a little bit defensively because Malone Mataele should have played that tighter than he did.
So 1st and 10 for the Utah 31-yard line. Slovis stays in the shotgun here on 1st and 10. Brings a man in motion across the formation. That's Gary Bryant. He'll drop the pass again. Plenty of time now. Steps up away from the pressure. Hit from behind and taken down. Sacked all the way back at the 37-yard line. Mika Tafua circled back around and wrapped up Slovis and took him down.
But if you see Slovis, he doesn't want to scramble. He wants to sit and live in that pocket. I mean, he just doesn't want to get out, and that's really good for Utah. Great job by Mika to just keep at it and keep with him.
Utah doing a really good job getting pressure with 4 and 5 men. They're not having to bring a lot of bodies, are they?
No, and that's helpful, and then they can cover down the field.
Here we go, second down, and we'll call it 16 all the way back at the 37-yard line. Slovis in the pistol formation, checking with his receivers on the outside. Turns and gives to Ingram, who's going to be wrapped up and stacked up back at the 40-yard line. Oh, man, they're going to give him the 39. He didn't even reach the 39-yard line. It'll be a loss of 2 yards. Xavier Carlton came in to wrap him up and take him down. Third down and long coming up.
Yeah, good to see from Xavier. Just real athletic, real aggressive here, actually getting there. And he's playing from the inside. So Xavier's not a tackle. This is that different look by Utah, and he just beats the guard to the inside.
Clark Phillips is going to see Drake London on third down and 18. Slovis wants the snap, takes it. Here it comes, 4-man rush. Nobody open right now, throws it to the outside. Oh, he's got him! London at the 20. He needed 18, and he picked up 20 yards. He was standing all by himself.
Yeah, and Clark Phillips kind of got nosy to the inside there because there's no way in the world that ball should be completed, and Utah just gave Keaton Slovis way.
Hey, you have that whistle? Do you have that whistle for me? I'm throwing a flag. Can I throw a flag?
I mean, it is your show.
This is from Brett McMurphy, who just joined us on the show. This is from his Twitter feed about an hour ago.
Wait, are you throwing a flag on Brett McMurphy?
No.
Okay.
I'm throwing a flag on Eastern Kentucky University.
Oh.
So Eastern Kentucky is playing Western Kentucky this weekend. All right? And Western Kentucky does something every single year where they have a home opener, a whiteout. Everybody wears white. Hey, they do a little Penn State thing. Everybody wears white. They wear the white uniforms. But it's their home opener. Okay?
Okay. With you.
Now, NCAA rules dictate that the visiting team visiting whites. You can wear your visiting whites, right? The visiting team has the right to wear white uniforms. And Eastern Kentucky, knowing full well that Western Kentucky planned on doing the whiteout for the home opener, Eastern Kentucky said, we're wearing white.
Kiboshed it. That's cold-blooded. That's cold-blooded.
I'm throwing the flag on Eastern Kentucky here. You can't cancel a whole team's whiteout. Although a directional school rivalry, this is the kind of pettiness that we're looking for.
About to say, that level, I respect that level of pettiness, where you're pulling up to somebody else's house and being like, nah, son, this is how we're doing it. That's like me going to your house and telling you that you're smoking the brisket incorrectly.
Or I'm like, hey, come over. We're having brisket. You show up and you're just like, I want chicken. That's what happened here.
Where's the cereal?
I'm throwing a flag on Eastern Kentucky. It's a savage move. It's mean.
It is.
It's mean-spirited. It's petty. It's just like, nope, we're going to wear white, so go ahead and put on those red uniforms. And then everyone who's in the stadium who didn't get the memo about this, 3-day change, they're going to be wearing white. And we're going to be wearing white as the visiting team. And your stadium is going to look like everyone's there to support us.
I really hope that their equipment manager and team just shows up giving everyone the double bird. That's essentially what just happened.
It's so messed up.
It is. That's OC showing up to my house on Taco Tuesday and be like, nope, we're having burgers.
Yeah. What is this? Taco Tuesday? No, man, it's burger time. Wow.
But the fact that they just didn't even care, respect. You have to give them credit where credit's due. One of my favorite things about Brett McMurphy, though, he's kind of a troll, and I'm here for it.
He loves to troll people.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
You know who he was really going in on? And, I wanted to talk mostly Big 12 with him, but he was just dancing on the Florida State grave.
Bro, you know that meme of, the headstone and the guy that's above him with, the finger, the thumbs up as they're buried? That's Brett McMurphy with Florida State.
He was just enjoying himself some downfall of Florida State.
I want to know the backstory as to why he hates him so much.
You know what? There's always a great backstory. It's 10 years ago, Mike Norvell didn't do the interview he wanted or something like that.
There's a villain arc, though.
There's absolutely a villain origin story here.
When he put out that tweet about the lawsuit teams and how they're not winning, that's when I knew right there that something went sideways.
All right, so this appeared in James Peterson's update yesterday, but it is important news. The Mountain West Conference and the remaining vestiges of the Pac-12 are in a scheduling agreement for 2024, and the hope was, at least on the Pac-12 side of things, that this could continue into 2025. And instead, an agreement was failed. Couldn't reach an agreement. So now Oregon State and Washington State are true independents for the 2025 season and for the foreseeable future because barring any major surprises, there's no rumor, there's no innuendo, there's no discussion at this moment that they are going to join a power conference. There's no place at the table as far as we know in the Big 12 or the ACC or anything like that. So what you're talking about is two previous Power 5 teams now being mid-majors, and not only that, but they are independent. They don't even have the benefit of membership in a strong conference. If they added Oregon State and Washington State to the Mountain West Conference, it's a pretty damn solid conference.
Yeah.
UNLV on the rise and Boise State back to being what Boise State is, and Fresno has their good years.
The Fighting Aggies.
You add Oregon State, Washington State, and renew kind of some Pacific Northwest for Utah State to get up there and find that recruiting footprint and things like that. I mean, it would be really good, you would think, for the Mountain West Conference, but financial demands and whatever else, you're looking at what happens. This is like a little snapshot. This is a little preview as to what can and probably will happen whenever the deck gets reshuffled to the leftovers, to the left behinds. There are going to be casualties when the Big Ten and the SEC decide, hey, we're chopping this thing up again. Let's see how it goes. And I throw shade almost on accident. Like Purdue, good luck. If you think whatever superpower mega conference wants you, Purdue, okay. Rutgers might have a chance because of the media market thing. Vanderbilt, I'm sorry, you're going to be left behind. Love you. Love your uniforms. You're in a great city. Vandy, there's a lot of things to like. And actually, they played a great game in opening weekend. But unless in the next 2 or 3 years you somehow revitalize everything, this is a risk that you run. And Utah and BYU have found their safe landing spot in the Big 12, and I've told you where I think the line of demarcation is when it all comes down. BYU's done the independence thing. And Tom Holmoe deserved Athletic Director of the Year in America every single season for putting together something remotely compelling as a true independent. You know how much harder that's going to be for Washington State and Oregon State? Because Tom Holmoe had the very real thing where he could say, look, I know that you don't want to schedule us in October, but guess what? You have a non-conference opening there. You could put a bye week there. We will bring you revenue that otherwise does not exist for you because of our television deal, and more importantly, because we are a religiously affiliated school that has fans everywhere, and you're going to sell 5,000 to 8,000 tickets to BYU fans. Whether you like that or not, that's revenue for you. All right? Your cotton candy and your ice cream is going to sell out. Your beer will not at that game.
I don't, playing devil's advocate, I think that they're doing this because they think they're going to get a better deal kind of when the reshuffling happens. I just don't know how, though.
They don't. There's no way they get a better deal.
And that's the only reason I assume that's what's happening, aside from the financial demands, because it makes zero sense to not have some sort of an agreement with the Mountain West.
Well, what I think is really happening, and you need to kind of like look in a mirror at certain points in your life, in your existence, and say, all right, what are my options? And you have to consider the worst case scenario, which is now staring back at you for Washington State and Oregon State. You have to consider what you do in that worst case scenario. Well, I can go independent. That's going to be miserable. It's going to be terrible. You're going to have to play one another twice. Once at the beginning of the year, once at the end of the year. You're going to have to get a bunch of garbage directional schools in October and November because nobody else is trying to schedule you when there's an expanded college football playoff and you've got solid programs, decent programs. All of your athletes, by the way, now that the transfer portal is available to them, are going to look at it and you're going to go, I don't even get to play in a conference anymore. We don't get to chase conference championships. We're not doing this thing where I can at least be attached to Boise State, Utah State, UNLV, Fresno State, like some reasonable brands. Okay, bye. This is bad.
Well, and the other thing too, or like I know it doesn't matter in this space, but it kind of does in the grand scheme. Oregon State and Wazoo have great baseball programs. Not terrible basketball programs, but they're not great either. And, I mean, their non-revenue sports are pretty solid. So, I mean, overall, they're not like bad additions to have, right? But it still just doesn't make any sense at all that they were just like, nah, we're better than this, when you already don't have an invite to any of these other P4s right now. Like, that's the part that I'm the most confused by is, hey, you don't have, that we know of course, an open invite to, say, the ACC, the Big 12. Like, that part, to me, is the most perplexing part because then you're like, nah, we're better than this.
It's not the right way to handle it. Like, SMU, as large as a helping of humble pie as SMU had to take to get their invitation, hey, we're not giving you any of our revenue. You're going to have to pay your own way in here for a while.
And they can afford it.
They're like, ugh. I mean, that's a blow to the ego. That's an ego bullet.
100%. 100%.
if you will. That hurts. And guess what they did? They're just like, yeah, okay, fine. We'll do it.
See, but the caveat is SMU, and this is not like throwback shade at all, they can legitimately afford it. So they'll be fine. They'll be okay. Not only do they print oil money, they print I'm just going to stop myself right there. They print.
I see what you're doing.
Yeah,
I see what you're doing.
Yeah. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They can afford it, though.
They can afford it. You're right.
I don't think Oregon State can necessarily do that. However, short term.
On the Mountain West Conference level, you could pay your own way into the Mountain West Conference, and you probably don't have to. I think with the Mountain West Conference, you just have to say, we'll take an equal share. We will humble ourselves to say that we are now, the writing's on the wall, we are now no better than you, Boise State. We are now no better than you, Aggies. UNLV, we're in the same situation as you. The problem is you get used to that, like, oh, no, we're hobnobbing with Stanford and UCLA all the time. I don't want to slum it with these Mountain West schools. You have to. You got to find a bedfellow, even if it's not somebody who that you typically would have called ideal.
Well,
not great.
And as a callback to Brett McMurphy's point, too, let's say, I mean, obviously what FSU and Clemson are doing is they're bleeding out the rest of the conference, right? They can afford to do it. But let's say the courts come back and say, hey, this is enforceable. It's going to cost you $300 million. Ouch. Like, I mean, there's not a lot of programs that can afford that, right? So it doesn't, it's not a given that even the ACC is going to explode. If the ACC exploded, would the SEC take Florida State in a heartbeat? I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah, which was interesting. Brett McMurphy said they don't want him. That's gamesmanship.
Yeah, I agree.
That's playing coy.
Yeah, I agree.
Because what the SEC doesn't want to have to do is pay a full share to Florida State, to Miami, to whoever they invite. And the SEC, because of their status in the sport, can look at everyone else and say, you want a slice of this pie? You want $75 million a year that goes all the way up to $120 by the end of this contract? I don't think so. But we're Florida State. We're Florida State. Yeah, doesn't impress me. You guys started 0-2 this year.
You lost to Boston College.
It's messed up.
In football. And another callback too to something you said a moment ago. Vanderbilt, an elite baseball program. Elite.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't matter because we're talking football.
I know. I know how disappointed you are to hear these things.
It pains me. David Price.
Like, baseball doesn't get to make any of these decisions for anyone.
No, it's all football. I know that.
And that's so, like, for Vanderbilt especially, that sucks. Because Vanderbilt is able to field their baseball team because they're in the SEC in football.
Yes. And they field it with first-round picks all the time.
They're phenomenal, right? And they're going to potentially find themselves in a situation where they're just like, hey, guys, sorry, we don't actually have that money anymore because the SEC doesn't want us and the new NFC AFC model. They don't want us in football. So all that football money is now a thing of the past. It's going to be weird. It's going to be ugly. And realignment, whether it's catalyzed by Florida State's exit, Clemson getting a win in their lawsuit, whatever it is again going to reshuffle things and make them disgusting. Speaking of disgusting, you have to be really realistic. You have to be careful about your expectations with this Utah football team. And Baylor, I told you before, is sneaky dangerous because really of one player, one situation. I'll give you the details on that in 3 minutes. One reason why this Baylor Bears game is scarier than you think it is on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700.
Ball security so far been good for Utah here today. Let's see if they can keep it up here in the second half. Minute and a half gone by, 1st and 10. Thomas stays in the ball game. 2 tight ends to the left, 2 receivers to the right. USC creeping near the line of scrimmage. Rising changes the play 4 on the play clock. Now he turns and gives play action look. Rising, looking down the field, throwing the deep out, and it's caught! Devon Bailey into USC territory and out of bounds at the Trojan 43-yard line. That's a pitch and catch of 15 yards.
And this is that chunk play down the field. You go run, 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 play action, boom. And great throw by Cam because he got to throw it over a guy. And that makes you a little bit nervous, but he just drops it right in that bread basket right there. And excellent throw right there by Cam.
For the first time this year, Utah's got a 200-yard passer. 204 yards here for Cam Rising. 1st and 10 for the SC 43-yard line. Turning to give again this time. TJ Pledger, second level. He's got the 30. There he goes! 10-5, touchdown! 43 yards into the open field and into the end zone for TJ Pledger.
So great run here. Tavion Thomas was just amazing here on this run. I mean, and it was great up front. I mean, USC sold out to the run and found a hole. Was very, very patient. Good to see him back in the game there because he was really in the doghouse. I wonder what house he's going to be in now.
Yeah, that was Tavion Thomas, not TJ Pledger. My apologies. It was 9, not 5, but it was 6 for scoring. And a point after touchdown up and good. It's a Pepsi touchdown, and Utah now leads it 28-10 with 12:41 to play here in the third quarter. We're back with more after this. Second half of Utah football being brought to you by the University of Utah and Utah Health. Get that same great care the Utes trust. Visit uofuhealth.org/Utes. 18-point lead for Utah. It took them 2 minutes and 29 seconds to put that drive together. 5 plays, 75 yards. Tavion Thomas going 43. The reason I thought it was TJ Pledger, I haven't seen Tavion Thomas run that fast.
I get it. I understand.
He's about 235, 240 yards, and he pulled away from that secondary.
Yeah, and we haven't seen a lot of him in a while, but early on in this third quarter, you're seeing Tavion Thomas. And really, Utah has a nice staple of running backs that are emerging. I'm just so glad Tavion is a talent and just glad that he's working his way through the different housing.
We'll go down to Sly
issues.
after this kickoff downstairs. I want to get his read on the sideline right now. Sly, that was a big opening drive for Utah. What's the vibe downstairs right now?
Oh, it is all smiles on this sideline right now. I haven't seen this many smiles in a long time. But it is a great job. You want to credit that offensive line. As we said, hat on a hat, a double-double is what we used to call it, where the offensive line double on the defensive line to the linebackers. They did that same play, but the tight ends got into the mix and blocked the secondary. Tavion Thomas came free.
1st and 10 SC from their own 26-yard line. Slovis to pass, throws complete in the flat to his tight end, Cromenhoek. He's beyond the 35, out to the 37. Goodness gracious. He had a man right in his face as he got rid of that football. I don't know how he got that complete. It was Mika Tafu who almost had his second sack of the night.
Yeah, and again, it's still getting pressure. I mean, that's a great play by Slovis, but we want to see him under duress every time he throws a football.
Well, they're going to throw it a lot now, so they can tee off and go after him. 4-man down look here for Utah. 1st and 10 SC from their own 38-yard line. Slovis again to pass. Backpedals, 3-step drop, looking down the field. He's got a man out there, and it's... Is it caught? It is. Drake London got behind Clark Phillips again, and he came up with a grab of the Utah 37-yard line. Scott, Utah's going to have to play here because SC's just going to throw it now the rest of the ball.
Oh, there's no question.
Here we go, 1st and 10. They're going to go a little quicker now. Hand off Keontae Ingram, and he'll be stacked up after a 2-yard gain at about the 35-yard line. Van Fillinger came in to make the tackle that time for Utah.
Baylor Bears coming into town. We're going to talk a lot about them all week long. Baylor, not going to be a good team this year, but Baylor can cause you problems because of a couple of individuals. I talked about Michael Trigg, their tight end. You saw him in a USC uniform not too long ago. Kid's an unbelievable athlete, an absolute monster freak of an athlete. All right? more importantly, and someone you need to dial in on, as the Zachariah Hour gets set to start here in 3 minutes, we'll talk about the San Francisco 49ers players ending holdouts and the number one recruiting tool in the world, the ultimate atom bomb trump card, dropped by a traditional blue blood powerhouse in college football. You have never seen a more important recruiting point than the one put out. I will get to that in 3 minutes. Well, 5. I'll be honest. It'll be 5 minutes. I never go on time. I just have to say this about DeQuan Finn, the Toledo quarterback who started for Toledo for several years before transferring to Baylor. He's not like Cam Rising, 6th year in a system, but this guy is incredibly dangerous with his arm and, more importantly, with his legs. Do you want to know some of the stats that this man has put up and compare them to, Cam Rising? DeQuan Finn, 7,000 yards, 63 touchdowns, 23 interceptions for Toledo.
Did you say 7,000?
7,074 yards, 63 touchdowns. Do you know who that's better than?
Cam Rising.
Now, look, it's Toledo.
Right.
The level of competition is different, but he is that productive of an individual. He's that scary of a quarterback. If you're wondering, all you got to do is keep him inside the pocket. It's fine. He'll dice you up with his arm. The pass rush is great. This man is 6'2", goes about 215 in his career, 1,840 rushing yards, 25 touchdowns.
So he can move a little bit.
The reason I bring you those numbers is because when you're talking about your reason for confidence with Utah facing anyone and everyone in college football this year is because you say, well, we have Cam Rising back. And when Cam Rising is taking the snaps, he can beat you with his arm, and he can also beat you with his legs. Numbers-wise, on paper, DeQuan Finn is at least Cam's equal in the ability to do those two things. And that's the guy quarterbacking this Baylor Bears team when they come to Rice-Eccles.
7,074. That's impressive.
7,000 yards and 63 touchdowns.
Where does, just for comp's sake, humor me here, where does Cam sit as we speak?
I just had it pulled up because I knew that you would ask that question. Hold on.
I thought you had it pulled up.
No. I do have it. It's here. I just have to scroll to the correct position.
You had like
5,800 yards and 51 touchdowns.
Granted, missing a season because of injury.
Yes. We're not saying DeQuan Finn is better than Cam Rising.
Right, yeah.
This is not exactly apples to apples.
No, we're just comparing them.
But I'm just letting you know that Baylor is watching film and going, oh, my gosh, look what this Rising kid can do. Even when you get close to him, he just squirts out the pocket. He wiggles, he twists, and now it's a first down. That's DeQuan Finn for Baylor. All right? Number 12 is something you should be worried about.
Solid name, too, by the way.
DeQuan
Finn.
It's a good name.
Great name.
All right. We got to take a break. Before we do, I want to remind all of you that the Black Desert Championship, October 9th to the 13th, marks the return of PGA Tour golf to Utah for the first time in more than 60 years. Tickets are available at blackdesertevents.com. PGA golf in Utah in October. The weather down there in Ivins is going to be absolutely perfect. Go get your tickets at blackdesertevents.com. Follow them on Instagram at Black Desert Championship. The PGA Tour comes back to Utah. It is the most impressive stat I've ever seen used for recruiting.
Cam Rising at the line of scrimmage, changing the play.
All
First down handoff, Pledger into the hole, spins off a tackle, gets to the 16-yard line, picks up a yard, and that's it.
I'll tell you what it is.
They ran right at the teeth, and Utah got no push up front that time. Tackle on the play by Rover linebacker Raymond Scott.
Sean O'Connell Show.
Yeah, and this is just a straight-ahead zone read here.
Devon Vele splits wide to the right-hand side on 1st and 10. 3 tight ends here for Utah. Vele the lone receiver. He has man coverage to the outside. Would Rising take a shot? Now they're going to shift around and move everybody to the outside now. He's back in the gun. Pledger next to him. 1st down and 10. Cam to pass. Stepping, looking, throwing long. He's got a man in the end zone. Open and just missed him, but we're going to have pass interference. Brant Keithy got tackled in the end zone. And that's going to be pass interference on USC.
Pass interference. The 21 of the defense. It's a 15-yard penalty with an automatic 1st down.
Maybe we started a trend here, Bill, and that, hey, let's just throw it down the field now. Why not?
Scott, was he going for Keithy or was he going for
Keithy.
Vele?
No, it was Keithy. Oh, yeah, clearly it's
Vele almost came up with the play anyway. 1st and 10, Utah. 2nd trip today into the University Credit Union red zone. And they'll have it 1st and 10 at the USC 15-yard line. Covey wide right, Vele to the left, 2 tight ends and Pledger. Cam goes under center. Rising, turns, and gives it to T.J. Pledger. Into the hole goes Pledger. On his feet, pushing the pile. He'll get to about the 12-yard line and pick up 3 yards. Raymond Scott, the Rover linebacker, who's had a big first half here, in place of Raylan Goforth, who will play in the second half. Made the tackle, 2nd down, and we'll call it 7 from the 12.
Yeah, I really like that, and just little play action and throw the ball to a tight end right over the middle. USC is so aggressive coming in to stop that run of Utah.
Tight end to the right, Fotheringham. Tight end to the left, Kincaid. Now they move Kincaid to the right-hand side. 2nd down and 7. Covey in motion. They'll turn and give it in a roll. Into the end zone, fired, caught. Touchdown! Touchdown! Money Parks, 4-6. His first career catch is a touchdown for Utah.
Hey, if you're going to start, you might as well start big, right? But a great throw, great play action here. I love this call. Just that Utah's really sold out on the run here. But he's got outside. He makes a nice move to the inside. I mean, it's a great catch there, getting his feet down. Perfect execution. Oh boy, that gets me so excited.
Montaran Money Parks for 6. A Pepsi touchdown, and the PAT is up, and the PAT is good, but we've got a flag down, and we may have motion up front on Utah.
I think it's defensive offsides.
It is defensive offsides. You're right.
Offside. For 23, the defense. Penalties decline. Try is successful.
Scott, they needed to answer, and did they ever? 5 plays, 75 yards, 2:05 off the game clock. Rising was 2 for 2 for 50 yards, and Montaran Money Parks with his first career catch, and it's a touchdown.
But you look at what happened to Cam Rising there. He completes that big 3rd down, throwing the ball down the field, and all of a sudden he starts to get confidence. And then you take a shot with Keithy down the field, and he made another good throw. It was just pass interference. But that out route on the goal line, one of the harder throws you have to make as a quarterback, and just to put it right on the money. And a great route by Parks. I mean, it was just, that's just good to see. And that now puts lots of doubt in USC's mind defensively, because now they know Utah can throw the ball along with running it.
Boy, oh boy, and they're throwing it to wide receivers here today, too. How about that? Theo Howard and Money Parks getting some catches. A lot of time here if Utah's defense could get a stop. Utah's got all 3 timeouts left. Noise is ready. And the proud Papa of 3 puts his right foot into it and drives it, and that's going to be taken by Nixon as he backs into the end zone, takes a knee, and that'll be a touchback at the 25-yard line. So the Utah defense got a little bit of a rest there. Not a long rest, but you know what, Scott? 2.5 minutes is a good rest, especially when you know your offense just scored some points.
Yeah, it's rest and you get rejuvenated. It's almost like taking an energy drink on the sideline when your offense does what it did right there and actually scores points. It just changes the whole energy of the team. USC now, they're not gonna run the ball anymore. They're gonna come out and they're gonna try to throw it.
I told you they don't stay committed to the run at USC. It's a typical air raid team. They run because, well, they kind of have to from time to time. 7 in the box here for Utah on 1st and 10. Slovis throws it out in the flat, nearly intercepted. Oh, it would have been a pick 6. They get it complete to London instead, and Drake London picks up 9 to the 34. And now we get a flag behind the play. That might be another flag on Utah for extracurricular stuff.
We break down.
Oh my goodness! Clark Phillips jumped that route and nearly came up with a pick 6. It may have gone through his hands. We'll have to look at the replay here.
This is
See what the
important,
flag is. It may
Alonzo.
be against SC.
How you
Let's see.
package the product is sometimes
The result of the play is a first down. After the play, personal foul, number 57 of the offense. This 15-yard penalty will be enforced. It will be 1st and 10.
Dittich committed the personal foul after the play, so they'll get the yardage to the 35-yard line, but then he'll mark him 15 back to the 20-yard line.
Flag on me.
I mean, Clark, no, that was Malone Mataele that missed it by about a foot, and that would have been 6 going the other way. You can only throw that play so many times, Scott, and somebody's going to come up and try and make a play on it.
Well, and I just like that he's more aggressive on that play.
It was condensed to about 15 minutes last week, but I let that slide because anytime you can get Alex Smith, I am very comfortable with getting bumped for Alex Smith. He did a great job on the interview.
It was great to have Alex Smith on the show, especially after a day where the technical difficulties were really something special. All right, I teased this
yesterday also.
Don't get
you
me
threatened
started.
to throw a chair through. You threatened to throw a chair through the studio window yesterday.
I
was
thankfully,
like, come on.
I was rattled.
Thankfully,
Rattled.
it did not come to that. Now, I want to make clear that I was not threatening my producer and no coworkers. The only threat was against the pane of glass on the exterior window of the studio.
Got it.
I would never throw it at
plus it's
the
soundproof.
producer's booth.
It's soundproof too, right? So it'd probably just bounce off.
Yes, I probably wouldn't be able
And
to
hit
throw it
you.
hard enough.
That actually would have looked cool on the stream. You'd have seen the chair and then
On the
And just
YouTube
go right
channel,
back and hit OC in the face.
just me raging like a captive gorilla, throwing things at myself would have been terrible. All right, I teased this. I want to actually deliver on a tease for once. Okay, the art of the tease, something that we're very focused on here at ESPN 700. It is truly, I think, the best recruiting nugget I've ever seen dropped by any program in any sport anywhere. Zachariah, I don't know if you saw this, but I know that this would probably work on most people, not on you because you're the only human being in America who doesn't care about money. Did you see Alabama's trump card that they pulled? The University of Alabama football team, we know that this is a blue blood football powerhouse. They're entering a new era under Kalen DeBoer after Nick Saban's retirement. Did you see the graphic they put out yesterday, Zachariah?
No, I did not. But how could it be any better than what Oregon has with all the Nike stuff? Because that would get me with all the J's.
Now, I understand like the retail devotion to Nike. I understand that very well. And it would make Oregon a compelling case. But if I thought that I was an NFL football player, I had an NFL future, what Alabama told me yesterday makes the decision for me. Alabama put out a graphic on their social media channels. Alabama former players have signed this offseason in the NFL $1 billion worth of contracts.
Damn.
$1 billion in this offseason alone in contracts.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Because you could because you could say Alabama has a long history, but if they're signing the contracts now, it means that it was all relatively recently. That's insane. It reminds me a little bit, not to cross sports, but John Calipari constantly talks about how many guys he gets drafted. You see him at the NBA draft. I know that's a huge recruiting point for him. I don't know. I think he might have brought up money too in contracts that he's gotten over. I mean, now obviously there's more players in the NFL than in the NBA, but I mean, yeah, that is strong. This offseason alone,
it's a relatively simple. It's like it's a picture of all the players, right? And then it just says on the bottom $1 billion. Former Alabama players have signed $1 billion in offseason NFL contracts this year. And guess what? It's true. And they waited until after Patrick Surtain signed his deal. He got a 4-year, $96 million contract extension from the Broncos. And that was the trigger that they used. Said, that puts us over $1 billion. We're good. Actually, if you account for the draftees that had signed their rookie deals, they were already over $1 billion. They didn't even need that $96 million to get there. This is a program that just churns out not only talent, not only wins, but NFL talent, and now NFL talent translates to money. 20 contracts totaling 56 seasons for over $1 billion, and the guaranteed money, because that's what really matters in the NFL, as both of you guys know, $611 million. Almost 612, actually. 611.729. Woo!
Pre-tax or post-tax?
Don't give me pre-tax or post-tax.
Hey,
well, if you're in Florida, it's a little easier. Because the first two people that I thought of, since I'm a Fins fan, is Tua and Waddle. I know they both got paid this offseason, so I know that they're a part of it. And then who else got paid? I can't think of any other big names right now.
In this offseason?
You just mentioned
CeeDee Lamb.
You just mentioned Surtain.
CeeDee Lamb got his $100 million deal. I can't believe. I mean, Brandon Ayuk got paid $30 million a year by the San Francisco 49ers. Trent Williams is now the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL. Again, he'll make $28 million plus this year for the San Francisco 49ers. These contracts are insane. These contracts are crazy. And Alabama leading the way with $1 billion worth of offseason money. You already mentioned Tua,
great.
4 years, $212. Patrick Surtain, $96 million, $77.5 of which is guaranteed. Calvin Ridley, 4 years, $92 million.
Wait, I got one. Derrick Henry, I can remember too. Derrick Henry signed with the Ravens. Is he on there?
Derrick Henry has to be on here because he did sign with the Ravens. He has 2 years, $16 million, $9 million in guaranteed money. I mean, you know what? We're just going to go through all of them because, again, this is from one collegiate program.
In one offseason.
Calvin Ridley, Jalen Waddle, 3 years, $85 million, $36 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
Landon Dickerson, offensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles, 4 years, $84 million, $50 million guaranteed. Defensive tackle for the Patriots, Christian Barmore, how much did we talk about Christian Barmore as a star player at Alabama?
I got to be honest with you. I wouldn't have been able to pick that. If it was like multiple choice on a game show, I wouldn't have got Christian Barmore.
He was just a guy. You didn't talk about him much. 4 seasons, $83 million.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, $83 million. That's nice.
41.8 guaranteed.
Now he just has a Brinks truck in his driveway.
Devontae Smith, the former Heisman Trophy
winner. I should have got that one. Yeah, Skinny Batman, they call him.
$75 million over 3 years, 51 of which is guaranteed. Xavier McKinney, $67 million from the Green Bay Packers for 4 years. $23 million of that's guaranteed. Jerry Jeudy, Cleveland Browns, 3 years, $52.
I should have got Jeudy.
Josh Jacobs, $48 million. Jonah Williams, $30 million. A'Shawn Robinson, $22 million. Derrick Henry, we already mentioned.
Got it.
Raekwon Davis, $14 million. Mac Wilson, Arizona Cardinals linebacker Mac Wilson, who I promise none of you knew played for Alabama.
Nope.
$13 million with $6 million guaranteed. And that's not even all of them. Those are just like those are the ones for multiple millions of dollars. The rest of them are like $1 million contracts.
How much did your Broncos pay Patrick Surtain?
Don't say my Broncos.
Your Broncos.
No, we're not saying my Broncos ever.
Salt Lake's Broncos.
Salt Lake City can claim the Broncos. 4 years, $96 million.
Wow.
So yeah, if I was any of the recruiters, so you said they put up an image of all the players and then like $1 billion in front of it or whatever.
Yes.
I would print up that shirt. You still have to dress nice because you're going to people's homes and you're trying to recruit kids. But I would have my coat open, not buttoned up. I would have a printout of that shirt tucked into my dress pants. I don't know how you get a tie in there, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. I would just wear that everywhere and just let them stare at that while I'm also telling them about all the other reasons why you should come to Alabama.
Here's what I do. It's a great idea that you just came up with. Here's what I do. I actually have this sublimated onto like a silk tie. So I'm wearing the tie. All right. The tie is tucked into the jacket. And during the conversation, you know how you sit down on the couch and you unbutton the top button of the jacket? And that reveals.
You lean over.
That reveals, and then this tie is just hanging there, and people are like, "Oh, what's on that tie? What are those? Oh, a bunch of Alabama players on the tie. That's cool."
Yeah, that's good.
And Grandma's sitting in the corner. She's like, does that say $1 billion? What does that mean? $1 billion? And then you're like, oh, thanks for asking, Grandma. $1 billion in off-season contracts.
Just like how your gold medals would casually fall out of your shirt at all times.
Yes, if I was an Olympian, absolutely.
Oh, what's that? Oh, well, thank you for asking.
I'd have the Olympic rings tattooed on my eyelids, on my forehead, on the back of my hands, on the palms of my hands, just so people from any angle could be like, "What's with the Olympic thing?" Oh, I'm glad you asked. I was once.
I didn't bring it up. You know what I mean? They asked me.
That's exactly right.
I was just answering the question.
I don't like to be braggadocious, but
no.
I am the fastest man in the world.
Because you asked, I was an alternate qualifier for Trinidad and Tobago in the shot put. Thank you.
So aside from Alabama, I don't know if that list is there anyone even remotely close?
I'll tell you this. LSU's got a bunch of players.
Yeah.
Georgia didn't like every player get drafted like in the first round. For
Michigan
them?
had like 18 guys drafted last year.
16 guys, something crazy.
But again, those are rookie contracts.
Right.
The thing that's impressive here is that you have 11 guys that are north of $50 million guaranteed.
11. And not rookie deals.
And by the way, there's the 2018 Alabama team accounts for like
a third of it.
Half of these guys. It's just absolutely insane. They all played for the same team. So, look, this is what you're competing with in the era of name, image, and likeness, especially. Zachariah, you're maybe the wrong guy with this conversation because you care less about money than almost anyone I know. But you're smart enough, you're business savvy enough to know that like this is what speaks to the young folks these days. If the comparison is you have this $1 billion in NFL contracts or Brian Kelly's corny ass standing on that like photo spinning thing, dancing to a song,
fake accent,
it's dancing to a song he's never heard. Like they're not even comparable recruiting strategies.
Yeah, well, I mean, winning's going to have to come along with it, but yeah, certainly, like we talked about, you took my idea and made it better because I was trying to figure out how to work a tie into the shirt. But yeah, instead of having it on the shirt and it being too blatant, put it on the tie, make it so that it's clear enough, and then, like you said, unbutton the suit coat, lean over kind of while you're sitting, so it's just hanging there, and then allow them to ask about it, and then that's the more subtle. See, that's why I need you to compliment me because I'm over the top, put it in your face. Although you did just talk about getting Olympic rings tattooed on your eyelids,
well,
but for the most part, I think you'd be more subtle. You'd get it like on your wrist maybe. But anyways, that's the more subtle way of doing it. Just lean over with the tie as you're talking about the facilities and all this stuff and what they can do for the prospect's future, and you just lean over and then you see their eyes kind of drift towards it. Eventually they'll ask, and then you just lay it on them. And I think that's the icing on the cake to get. Not that Alabama needs it, but that certainly would help.
If I'm Kalen DeBoer or someone on his staff, I'm going full fake Southern accent, and I'm hitching my pants up. I'm nutting my knuckles together, and I'm leaning over, and I'm talking to mom and dad directly. I'm not even addressing the player, okay? And I'm saying, I need to tell you about the study hall that we have put together for your son. His grades are going to be the most impressive thing about his time at the University of Alabama. And that's when I lean over, and that's when the tie comes out, and that's when that graphic is shown, and that's when Grandma takes her teeth out and says, "What does that mean?" I have the perfect scenario here.
To your credit, your accent is more convincing than Brian Kelly's.
Brian Kelly,
that was so bad.
It was awful, but I kind of respect that he just went for it.
Isn't he from Connecticut?
Yes.
That's like
there are people in his defense. Not that I want to be on the side of the defense of that horrific accent, but I have heard before. I forget exactly where I read it or saw it or whatever. But there's a phenomenon with certain people when they are around other people that have accents that they start to develop the accent. Now, normally it's because you've lived there for a long period of time, but I have heard in just short periods of time, you'll start talking like the people that are around you. So, I mean, that's just kind of my justification, but if you're going to do it, you at least got to do it better.
No, I get it.
I'm embarrassed by this, but my wife makes fun of me for this all the time.
You have a Utah accent.
No.
Oh.
What? But like, I do this unconsciously where if I'm around like a certain group of people that talks a certain way, in tiny little subtle hints, my own speech patterns will reflect what I'm hearing instead of how I normally sound.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, it's kind of embarrassing, right? Because you should just talk how you talk no matter where you're at.
Oh, yeah.
And thankfully, when you get married, your wife is the person who's going to point these things out to you. But like when I love Hawaii. When I spend time in Hawaii, my wife is just like, stop doing that. And I'll be like, what? She's like, stop. You're trying to talk like you're Hawaiian.
Stop saying Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly.
But in
you
your
do like
defense,
you do the little thing like Hawaii and like, how's it? You know, you like
get a little pigeon.
You do a little pigeon, just a little bit. And she's like, no, stop. You are a corny white dude from the suburbs of Utah.
In your
Stop
defense, I feel like that's your inner troll coming out, though, to a certain degree. Because, I mean, because you do have a good set list of voices. I will give you credit where credit is due. But there is no reason on God's green earth that Brian Kelly should be sounding like he's been in NOLA for years when he's only
and at
been
the
there for
worst
weeks.
possible, like at a filled basketball arena. It was like the worst possible place that he could have done it. And yeah, he got grilled for it. Has he ever come out and like at least made fun of it or like made light of it?
No.
Has he admitted it?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, he should.
That's like me. That's like me coming back like after spending 3 days in England and being like, "Can I have a cuppa?" Like there's no reason for that. No reason for that. And Zachariah, I know why you're laughing.
Or if you came from the valley,
Yeah.
you came from the valley and started talking like a valley girl.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
You're like, oh my God, OC, totally. We should totally get that guest on.
But look, it's fun to do this with Alabama because they can just drop these recruiting bombs. But it's also not really fun because you're now recruiting against this, not just coming out of high school. Like, yes, this impresses a high school recruit, right? The reason that this is so relevant in Salt Lake City, Utah, and not just this particular graphic, but everything like this. The reason it matters is because 2 years ago, Dalton Kincaid, now with the Buffalo Bills, had emerged as a star in the making for Utah football, right? And Alabama came with their overtures in the offseason and said, hey, we want you to come play tight end for us. And thankfully, the Wolves were kept at bay, and Dalton stayed and had an incredible finish to his Utah career, and the rest is history. I saw a projection actually just this morning that he's supposed to be among the top fantasy football point scorers at the tight end position this year. I don't really mess with fantasy football like that to where that impresses me.
You're not
more.
in one league?
I'm not in one league this year. I'm sure somebody will invite me and I'll do like a auto draft or something.
The season starts tonight, buddy.
Okay, well, I'll do like
tomorrow night. Sorry.
All right. Well, I don't know what to tell you, but the reason this matters is because now the transfer portal means that let's say just throw someone out there. Let's say that Money Parks. No, I'm not going to use Money because Money just got the 22 Forever scholarship, so I'm not going to do that. But let's say Mike Mitchell emerges as just like an absolute beast this year. Now, every program, including Alabama, that feels like, hey, we had some injuries or we didn't hit our quota in the running back room or whatever, now this stuff is not only targeted at high school recruits full of precociousness and boyhood wonderment and the whole world is in front of them, it's now being directed at every single player with NFL aspirations in America, including ones that are on your roster at Utah, at BYU, at Colorado, at any school, Zachariah.
And that's why this year is so important. I mean, every year is important for recruiting, and not only recruiting, but now that it's turning into the NFL and there's basically free agency and all that stuff. That's why this year is so important. Not just because of the amount of talent that came back from injuries, not only because of the talent that was brought in, not only because of the talent that was already there, but because they're entering a new conference, which I Pac-12 or Big 12, I don't know which one you would have said, had like really a bigger stage, probably close to equal. But now that the Pac-12 is Tupac, they're going to a new conference. The schedule is doable. And, you know, I wish you hadn't tweeted out that like forecasting what the playoffs might be and that they would have a bye and then they'd run into Georgia. But anyways, the point is, like, this year is very important to get that bye. Believe me, that week leading up when other teams are playing, and that's going to be super cool because they're going to be playing at the other team, like the higher seeds home field. But once they get into those bowl games, that the week leading up when all those teams that don't have a bye are playing, they're going to be pointing out who has a bye. So Utah is going to be on the map in terms of people watching that coverage. And then once they get there, hopefully they win. Even if they don't, hopefully they put up a huge fight against a huge team. And then that's going to help with recruiting. That's why this year is so important. They can't go 9-3 or like even real. I mean, hopefully not 10-2, even though that's what we kind of felt like might be the most realistic thing. But if they went 11-1 or praise the heavens 12-0 and then they got that bye and then they were in a competitive game that went either way. That's why this year's so important, so you don't lose guys like you're talking about.
Just keep an eye on it. You got to have these trump cards. We'll come up with one for Utah. Alonso's got a lot of connections up there on the hill. We'll come up with the number one recruiting tool Utah can use, because Alabama, they just put theirs on the table. They just played the ace of spades. They're like, this is what we have. I don't know if anyone else in college football has it, but we're going to point this out. $1 billion in NFL contracts signed just this offseason by former Crimson Tide players. That's what you're up against, everybody in America, every other coach, every other recruiting coordinator, every other GM. Good luck.
You can't be subtle about it, though, either. Like, you got to show up, like, iced out to recruit kids now, because it's like, yo, we got a Billy. A Billy.
Kalen DeBoer has to get a grill and, like, a custom chain.
And the grill says a Billy.
You really think that officials from Alabama are going to show up like the Cash Money millionaires to these kids' houses?
Bro, that would be incredible.
It would be the
iced out grills, bling, bling, slapping in the background.
The funniest thing would be to see Kalen DeBoer in that, because this is a dude from South Dakota.
Could you imagine Kalen DeBoer showing up to like the number one football recruit in the country's house with Birdman to just recruit you? The big
little
timers.
Wayne, you can't even see anything because there's so much bling in his face.
He's got one of those new like electric Hummers that crab walks itself into a parking spot out in front of the house,
and that's how he parallels in front.
He's just like, what's happening?
Just amazing. Just flexing. No chance Kalen DeBoer does that.
No, absolutely not. Kalen DeBoer, you couldn't even get Kalen DeBoer to do the tie idea that we just gave.
No, he would look at you like, are you stupid?
Be like, I'm not doing that.
Like I said, are you stupid?
I'll print that on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of plain white office paper, and I will hand it to mom and dad.
But really, is there no one even remotely close to Alabama?
I don't even know how to look that up. Do you know how to look that up?
I was doing some digging right now, but I'm spinning a lot of plates over here.
Like, dude,
I'm just curious because if the trump card, if that's the trump card, it ain't fair. It ain't right. It ain't right.
All right. The Utah Hockey Club starts its inaugural season in about a month. They just announced who their broadcast team is going to be. This is an important decision for a franchise to make, especially as they foray into the new market. We'll tell you who the play-by-play voice is going to be, who your color analysts are, your rinkside reporter, all of it. We'll get to all of it on the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700.
Bernard, the tailback, 3 wide look here for Utah on 1st and 10 from their own 20, leading at 7-3. Covey the motion man across the formation, left to right. Now he'll come back right to left. Play action pass for Rising. They try to set up the screen, and then he just throws it at the feet of Brant Keithy.
Number 80 was in the area of the pass. Second down.
We haven't seen a lot of screens this year. They tried to set one up, but SC was ready for it.
Yeah, and what happens is Keithy's blocking, and the guy doesn't go past him. He stays on him, and so the play was kind of dead there. But it looked like it was going to be a screen to Covey, but it didn't work.
2nd down and 10. Rising goes under center. Motion across the formation for the tight end. A turn and a give. Mekhi Bernard trying to bust to the outside. Gets through to the second level. Bernard still on his feet. Beyond the 25 and out to the 27-yard line. Good run that time by Mekhi Bernard, but a flag down behind the play, and this is going to be holding on Utah. Oh, maybe. Wait. This might be on USC.
I'm not going to lie. I did want somebody to call me and offer me the Utah Hockey Club play-by-play job. Spoiler alert, did not happen.
Did not happen.
Sean O'Connell Show, the Zachariah Hour, talking all things sports. This came across from the official Smith Entertainment Group newsfeed. This is from the Utah Hockey Club itself. They have decided on their broadcast team as of 10:17 a.m., September 4th, 2024. Matt McConnell is going to serve as your television play-by-play announcer. Dominic Moore and Nick Olczyk will be TV analysts. Kim Becker, who's been around the NHL world, she's been hired as the TV studio host, and Sarah Merrifield will be the rinkside reporter. Now, look, I don't expect for listeners of this show who are all the way in right now on Utah football season to look at this and say, oh, yay, or oh, no. This is the group, though. This is the window dressing. This is the packaging for a new product in the market. And even though I facetiously goof off and say I wish I had been given this job, I'm actually very happy with the multiple positions I've already got. This is so massively important as you're trying to introduce hockey to a lot of new fans. Yes, there are some hardcores here in Salt Lake City, but Zachariah, as you know, like even in sports markets where hockey has been around a long time, like the San Jose Sharks are competing with 2 baseball teams, 2 NFL teams. They're competing with the Warriors, who are one of the greatest shows in all of professional sports. And even though there's millions and millions of people to go around, it's hard to build a fan base in hockey. This is a new market, and these are the folks who are tasked with making it happen.
The next time I do a show with you, I'm going to have a notepad and a pen so I can write down all my thoughts, because I'm not going to remember all of them. First of all, would you like me to derail you before you start the segment or after you get done with your intro to the segment?
You can derail me whenever you like.
Okay, because I was going to interrupt and say, did Zoe play a milli coming back from break because you won $1 million in some violent tournament?
No, he was doing that because of a Billy.
Ah, I got it. I think there is a remix for a Billy. Anyways, and then the other thing, you would be the worst play-by-play hockey guy of all time. I hope that was a joke. Number 3,
when I was doing
number 3, I did some research while I was out there, or no, actually I was here, but I was doing research for a Utah Hockey Club interview, and I stumbled across this thing that said, Utah Hockey Club looking for a PA announcer. Who would be better at doing PA announcing than me? So I quickly tried to apply. They had like a little script that you read or whatever, and then you submit it. And by the time I got to it, I mean, it was that day, but it had already said submissions are closed. So somebody other than me got the PA job. So I'm not mad about the play-by-play, because while I love hockey playoffs, I'll be very honest that I'm a novice when it comes to it. And then what was your questions? Those were all my thoughts. But yeah, I mean, obviously you got to make that announcement when the announcers come out. Oh, and I had to correct you. The Sharks aren't competing with two baseball teams. The A's are basically gone, Sacramento and then Vegas, and they're not competing with two football teams because the Raiders went from Oakland to Las Vegas, and they're kind of not.
Are you pretending that they don't have fans in the Bay Area market still?
No, they do, but what I'm saying is in the South Bay, they're really only competing with the Earthquakes. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I think it's big. This is their first year, and one of the guys that I interviewed, and if he's listening, forgive me for forgetting his name, told me that like they're a sleeper to make the playoffs. He said that he would probably be a little bit more surprised than like a little more surprised if they did make the playoffs. But from the stuff that I researched, there's a lot of people that are picking them to kind of sneak in, or if not sneak in, have competitive games down the stretch to possibly sneak in, which I think in your first year would be incredible.
Look, we saw what happened when the Las Vegas Golden Knights became the first expansion franchise ever in any sport to make it to the championship. That was insane.
Crazy. Yeah.
And by the way, I don't know when the last time any of you went down to Vegas was and tried to get a ticket to a Golden Knights game.
I tried.
They're expensive.
They are. Same with the Kraken. I tried to get Kraken tickets when we were there for football. Expensive.
And that's going to be the case here in Salt Lake. I mean, when they took ticket deposits, season ticket deposits on the Utah Hockey Club, it was insane.
Yeah, didn't you one of your deposit like kind of pricey?
Well, look, the deposit was only $100.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
$100 per seat. And that's, I think, why so many people put in. And there were thousands and thousands of people who put in for the season ticket deposit. And I sat back because usually I am a little bit cocky and arrogant. And I'm just like, look,
a little bit.
These things are going to open up because nobody's going to want to spend $11,000 on a season ticket package, $14,000 on a season ticket package, $40,000 on a season ticket package. Like, the sticker shock is going to come into play eventually when it's time to put your deposit towards the actual ticket purchase. I'm like, there's going to be options.
Right.
Wrong. If you were not at the top of that season ticket deposit list, like the top, they were calling you and saying, hey, we can sell you a half-season package. I was not at the top. I was like B+, B maybe, in terms of how quickly I got in. All the A ticket packages sold out, gone. The options they came to the rest of us with were just like, hey, you can do like full season in the upper decks. You can do half season in the lower bowl. We can kind of piece some things together for you. We want to make sure everyone's taken care of. I was like, what? I put in my ticket deposit the day it became available, an hour after it became available. They're like, yeah, sorry. We called everyone in order. And everyone bought. So there's going to be a lot of support for this Utah Hockey Club. But getting back to the announcers, I was very, very curious to see how the strategy would play out with the Smith Entertainment Group in filling these roles. Because there's a lot of talented folks in this market who have play-by-play experience in other sports. Hockey, though, is a unique animal, and you have to be good at it. Matt McConnell, who they chose, is entering his 29th season as an NHL play-by-play broadcaster. Zachariah, 29 seasons. I don't care how talented you are as the young buck on the rise who's calling, Utah hockey games at the university. You can't beat 29 seasons of experience.
That is a lot of names to memorize is the only thing that I could think of.
Dominic,
all those pronunciations from all those different countries.
Yeah, the Eastern European names.
That's a job in and of itself.
We joke about this with the Polynesian names and play-by-play broadcasters. We had the voice of the Baylor Bears on today, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to work on the pronunciations. That's what I do on Wednesdays, and so he's going to get those things down. In hockey, you've got Eastern Europeans, you've got Russians, you've got First Nations people from Canada, a lot of those now playing in the NHL level. Like, there's a lot of tongue twisters. So Matt McConnell.
Yeah, I heard you mention. I actually listened to that interview, and I heard you mention how bad the broadcasters were, because I went back and I watched like the first half of the Utah game, but I wanted to watch the whole thing, so I watched back the whole thing, and man, there was some really, really bad pronunciations. I mean, the key is to spell them out phonetically, but I've done it as I've tried to get all the names down. And even when you do it that way, sometimes you can slip up. But I mean, hockey, it's just insane. I would just come up with a bunch of, A-Rod for Alex Rodriguez. Not that Alex Rodriguez is hard to pronounce. I'd come up with a lot of those. You know what I mean? I'd just be like, A-Rod, passes the puck. He shoots. I would just use a lot of first initial, first three letters of the last name.
So I will say this, even as people are texting in and just trashing the idea that other sports voices from outside this market should have a place in Salt Lake City, this is the right move by the Smith Entertainment Group. What they did here is they went and they got hockey people to call hockey games. And they got a studio host in Kim Becker who's been on the ice. All right, former competitive figure skater, spent her life around hockey culture. You found people to fill these roles. Sarah Merrifield, the rinkside reporter, worked with the Dallas Stars in the past. These are hockey people. This is something we have to get used to in the market. Would we all like it if our guy Tony Parks on the Bees games stepped right over and started doing Utah hockey? Yes, he would do a great job. He would figure out the craft, right? I think that I would do a good job if they had called me to do something like this. Scott Gerard, I know, was interested in doing something like this. This is the right thing to do. You bring in people who are experts in this hockey field because this is the first year. You can't have stumbling, bumbling, mispronunciations. You can't have difficulties. You can't have questions about blue lines. You got to get the hockey people to do it. And we here in Salt Lake City, who pride ourselves on being welcoming and pride ourselves on being great hosts and being people who created a wonderful community for all of us to live in, should do the same thing for these broadcasters. Alonzo, you got to hold me accountable for that.
That's true. No, you're not lying. No lies have been detected.
We're so territorial.
Yes.
We are so, we are the gatekeepers of our borders in a way that is really kind of obnoxious sometimes, and we have to stop being that way because we get hockey, and guess what? None of us are dyed-in-the-wool hockey people. None. Zero.
No. And here's the thing, right? I am an outsider in this market. I am not from this market. I am similar to Zachariah, a SoCal wuss bag, and I can humbly admit that. However, if I'm going to listen to a hockey broadcast as a neophyte, I would rather have someone that is going to actually talk hockey correctly than, no disrespect to Tony Parks. Love Tony Parks. Love the homie Tony Parks. But if I'm going to learn the ice soccer, then I need to learn it correctly.
Don't call it ice soccer.
That's what it is. It's ice soccer. Just a little more violent.
It's a lot more violent. It's a lot more difficult.
Oh, it's hard, bro.
A lot faster.
A lot faster. And the crazy thing is, you do not realize how kind of common hockey players are, like common looking they are.
Yeah.
Until you see them, and then you see the stuff that they do, and you're just like, how are you doing that on ice backwards?
Also, if soccer did the fighting thing that hockey did, it'd be so much more popular in America.
100%. Let a guy get just
I was going to say, soccer guys go down every 5 seconds. They drop like flies, holding some fake injury, and then they're back sprinting. Hockey guys are out here not even disclosing what their injuries are. They just say lower body or upper body. That's it. And then you find out when the season's over that they've had like 17 surgeries, and they're out there playing with like 15 torn knees and whatever the bleep.
Sidney Crosby playing with a torn ACL.
All right, we're going to give some tickets away in our next segment. By the way, reminder, since we're talking tickets, Def Leppard is coming to the America First Credit Union Amphitheater September 10th. Listen to Spence Checketts for your chance to win a pair of tickets there. Dan and Shay are also coming to the AFCU Amphitheater on September 20th. We're going to give away 2 tickets to that next with some topical trivia. We also have a Farmer and Chemist gift card. We have FightCon tickets. It's like Oprah's favorite things here. We're giving away tickets. All you have to do is answer one question. Spoiler alert, it's going to be a question about the Utah versus Baylor matchup. All right? We're closing out the Sean O'Connell Show on the other side. You're listening to ESPN 700, your home of the Utes. All right, we've got Farmer and Chemist gift card. We have Dan and Shay tickets coming to the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater September 20th. Pair of tickets to that and to FightCon on October 5th down in Sandy. If you can answer this question at 877-353-0700. We talked about the Baylor Bears and the Utah Utes matchup. That's coming this weekend to Rice-Eccles Stadium. Utah Equipment just released the uniform, the kit, so to speak. All red everything, Zachariah. It's the right call. Always the best look for Utah. Red lids, red jerseys, red pants, red socks, red shoes, red everything. Okay, thanks for your input. 877-353-0700. If you know the answer to this question. DeQuan Finn, Toledo transfer to Baylor, has accounted for how many touchdowns in his collegiate career? Passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns. How many has DeQuan Finn accounted for in his career? It is a crazy number. I warned you about it. I told you about it. The man has scored some points. Tickets to give away based on that answer. We had Andy Ludwig on the show to start things out. You can go, I'm going to retweet the interview. You can also go to ESPN700sports.com. It's archived. You can listen to all of that. You can check out the podcast form of the show. You can listen to the whole thing. Alonzo does an absolutely phenomenal job of making sure that the sound gets put where it needs to be put so you can access it. We spent a lot of time talking about Andy Ludwig's mastery of not only the offense and his creativity and what he's going to craft with this tight end group especially, but how he and Kyle Whittingham are such an incredible dynamic duo together. And the next time we have him on the Coordinator's Corner, I won't spend 20 minutes after the conversation giving Andy his flowers, but I'm just so impressed by the way that man has kind of mastered the dragon that is Kyle Whittingham and his offensive opinions. And because of that,
yeah, man, you spent like a good 10 minutes after the interview singing his praises. By the way, I did say something when you said all red, but I think it was a gift from God that it didn't go over air because my mic was on mute and my comment probably should have been muted. So let's just move on from there.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I'll tell you all.
Sometimes it's just better to keep you muted, period.
I know. When I did the show with you out there live in person for the first time on terrestrial radio, you just kept that. You shouldn't have the control of people's mics. That's too much power for you. Isn't there like you're a superhero guy? I heard you and Spence chatting about superheroes yesterday on the Crosstalk. You're a superhero guy. Isn't there some phrase with power?
With
too much power or something?
No, with great power comes great responsibility. Yes.
Yeah, and you're not. You don't deserve that kind of power.
Alonzo, go ahead and just mute that again if you need to.
See, what he doesn't realize is I have the power now, and I can mute everybody on the show. See what I did there, Zach? Muted.
I think I'm even more scared.
Well, I'm sorry. What was that?
Oh, that's messed up. He's that way.
That's all.
Thanks for joining me for another hour, bud.
Yeah, you got it. I'll be on tomorrow for the full show. So
you won't actually
check me out then, huh?
No, I'm here tomorrow.
No, you are?
Yeah, I'm here tomorrow.
Oh, I thought I was doing Thursday and Friday.
No, that's next week.
Today is Wednesday, right?
Yeah, next week you're doing Thursday and Friday.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. All right, got my dates mixed up.
Calendars are crazy, like especially with them on your phone now. You can just write down the date so you don't lose track of the date.
That's probably my fault because I sent him my PFL broadcast travel schedule.
Yeah, I'm scrolling right now to get receipts.
That I will.
Yeah, so I texted
hold
you.
On,
I texted you.
We don't need the full play-by-play. We don't need the full play-by-play.
Is there a flag coming?
I'm admitting that
huge flag.
That I probably said yes. I'm gone for the weekend. We have Bellator fights in San Diego. Right, this weekend. But it's a Saturday show, which means weigh-ins are Friday. I got to broadcast the weigh-ins, which means Thursday I fly out, And, of course, I scheduled my flight to make sure I could do the show on Thursday before I left. So that's my bad, Zachariah. That's a flag on me.
False start.
Procedural error. What is that? That's
a 5-yard
illegal
penalty.
Formation? What is it?
Nah, I'm going
That's
false
like
start.
15.
15?
That's 15 at least.
It's not 15.
Yes.
You're out of your mind.
I literally texted you. So 9-5, 9-6, 9-12, 9-13. And you said yes.
That's okay. That's at least 10 yards.
Yeah, that's you know what? That's not even procedure.
It's all right. I don't have a life. I don't need to make a schedule. Nothing's important on my end. It's all about you. So you can just tell me that I'm doing days, and then I don't end up having to do those days. Maybe somebody asked me to do something tomorrow and Friday.
Probably
not. And
Probably
maybe
not.
I could have made plans. Maybe I could have taken a vacation for the end of the summer. But it's all good. I need you on these days. You know what? I'm not even going to tell you until the day before, but I'm not mad or anything. We're good.
Intentional grounding, loss of down. That's a 15-yard joint.
Yeah, ejection.
Oh, wow.
Targeting.
Targeting
Being considerate of my time.
Launching.
He left his feet.
Feet launched. Led with the crown of the helmet. My sincere apologies.
Didn't you send a tweet out that said if anybody asks you what targeting is, just watch this video?
Yes, it was the kid.
Wasn't that you?
Kid didn't get his arms.
That's you.
Didn't get his arms involved in the tackle at all. Just went like full on dolphin right at the dude's neck.
That was
just the worst idea.
That's how I feel.
Okay, well,
whoever was on the receiving end of that, that's how I feel.
I feel kind of bad, a little bad, not a lot bad, but a little bad right now.
Minimal bad, minimal.
Big thanks to Andy Ludwig for joining me on the show to start things out today. Big thanks to the voice of the Baylor Bears for giving us a little bit of perspective. John Morris will be here in Salt Lake City on the call for the Baylor Radio Network. And then, of course, Brett McMurphy and my guy, Zachariah. The Drive with Spence Checketts is next. Spence is on remote. Where's he at today, Alonso?
Please hold. I had it up and then I closed it.
Spence not gracing us with his presence in the studio, which means that he is out and about as a man of the people.
He's being an Avenger at the Dish Pros.
Oh, you love that. Now's the time, by the way, to sign up with Dish Pros. NFL season begins this weekend, and I guess I got to jump into a fantasy league literally tonight.
I mean, we in hindsight, we should have invited you to our fantasy league over at a party that will remain disclosed. However, the reason I didn't invite you is because you're just a habitual line stepper.
Fair.
That's literally the only reason I didn't invite you.
That's fine. I'm not going to argue.
And you hate fantasy anything.
I like fantasy like novels.
Well, yeah, but that's not the same.
Dragons.
You don't like
wizards.
Pretend sports. You don't like pretend sports.
I like real sports a lot more than I like pretend sports.
My point remains validated.
Stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show on 92.1 and ESPN 700.